We're back talking about one of our most popular topics, two-player games. This time, looking at some recent finds and listing off some of our new favorite games for two.
Unlike the last few episodes, this time I actually managed to find 3 games to review that actually stick to the theme of the episode. So stick around for the second half of the show where we're going to be reviewing Floristry, Lone Wolves, and Architects of Amytis.
And if you didn't guess from what Mo just said, those are all two-player games. We're also going to be talking about our recent gameplays, which include a bunch of new-to-us games. These aren't two players, including Mo's first thoughts on Dawn, our first game of Star Realms, Rise of Empire. Well, that one's two players. And finally getting Kutna Hora to the table with the family. Plus, we're going to talk a bit about our first event at the Cookie Bar here in Windsor.
Well, before we get to any of that, we'd better let people know who we are. I'm Sean, your host, and with me is our editor and webmaster, Deanna.
Hello to all the Bellhop boarders.
And Mo, the tabletop bellhop himself.
I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, working with you to make your game nights better.
We always intend to record Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, live at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop, and we love it when people join us in our lobby, the chat room.
Okay, before we move on, a little bit of housekeeping. First, disclosure, wherever you're hearing this, any links you see are most likely affiliate links, which cost you nothing extra, but help support the show. If you want show notes, you can find detailed show notes for this episode over at tabletopbellhop.com/episode 276. That's 276. And I do mean detailed show notes. We list every game we talk about with links to where you can find a copy or find more info about it. And finally, I want to acknowledge that this episode exists because of the support of our awesome Patreon patrons.
A couple of announcements before we get to talking about two-player games.
All right. Due to the recently issued travel advisory from Ottawa here in Canada and the ongoing protests and unrest in the United States, we have made the hard decision to not attend Origins Game Fair this year. Apologies for anyone who's looking forward to meeting with us. And yes, we're missing out on a lot of things, but I think it's the right choice to stay home at this time.
On a more positive note, we did get a personal invite to go check out one of Outset Media's latest games at an upcoming event here in Canada that's going to happen in July. The game in question, Guildlands, is the latest game from Kedrick Winks and Ken Boyder, and that's the same team that brought us the Crooked Crown. It's a fantasy city building tile laying game, and we got a quick overview of it at Gamma Expo back in February, and it really caught my eye. So I'm excited about that and about the excuse to go check out the Outset Media showroom.
In other good news, we will again be running the board game area at the Summoning, Windsor's own pop culture and gaming convention, held this year on Saturday, July 26th at St. Clair College.
Yeah, we'll have some of the best games in our collection out there for people to play, menus, and people on hand to be able to teach games. We're also going to be working with the CG Realm to provide a selection of play-to-win games. Now, something they've asked of us this year that we still have to brainstorm is they're looking to see if we can bring something special to the area, something special to the board game area to make it worth people stopping by. So we're also looking for ideas on how we can make this happen, to make us stand out, to make people stop by. So if you have some idea of something cool we could do, something you'd like to see at the Summoning or like to see in a board game area, like an open gaming area at a con, I would love to hear about it at mo@tabletopbellhop.com. Now, early bird tickets for the Summoning are live, and I will be sure to toss a link to that in the show notes.
The Tabletop Bellhop team is here to answer your gaming and game night questions. Tonight, we're returning to the question we get asked the most in some form or another, and that's, what are some good two-player games?
Yeah, this is the question that, we just keep getting it. And we could go through our question box and probably pull out 3 variations on this that are sitting in there right now. So we're not reading any one particular question. We're just going to dive in and tackle it. And it's a popular topic. It continues to be one of the most popular search term that leads people to our site, because I'm the one that pokes around the back end and sees that stuff, right? So I know it's something that people are always thinking about.
And we get a huge variation on this too, right? Like often it's just one of the best two-player games, but it's like, hey, what games have you and Deanna been playing on your recent trips? What two-player games are you into? What's a good game I can play with my brother was an interesting one I got on social media the other day. Like me and my brother are heading, on a road trip. What are some games we can play together? I think if we end up with this one on the blog, and by the time we finalize the title, we'll probably have 2-player games for couples. But everything we talk about tonight is 2-player games for everyone, whether you're couples or not. Just games
for
that two people sit down and enjoy.
Humans.
Yeah, or a couple of humans. There you go. Board games for a couple of human players. Human board game players. We're drinking their human alcohol beer. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this topic up again is that recently Deanna and I have discovered a bunch of new 2-player games that we're really enjoying. We've just been playing a lot lately. Sean's played some with us, and they've proven to be really popular at our local public play events. Surprisingly, large board game events with 75 people coming out, we often get couples who come out, or pairs, or 2 friends who just want to play games by themselves. So our 2-player games have been getting a lot of play lately. And while you guys know how much Deanna and I love to bring out 2-player games on date night, or when we go out to the pub or the bar or the local craft brewery, and we love playing 2-player games over some coffee, cappuccino, craft beer, or whatever. So I was just one of those, I'm like, we have so many right now, and it's been a while since we talked about 2-player games. And I was looking back at our older 2-player game content, and there's still some great games on there. Like, definitely go check out our older content, because everything we said back then still stands. I can't think of anything that's been eliminated by a new game on our list, but there's all this new awesome stuff we've been playing, and I just want to get the word out about it. Honestly, now, while it's still available, and to be honest, some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight, I don't even think it's hit retail yet. So we got to mix a new, old, and stuff you should be able to get.
Yeah, so I'll be sure to drop the links to the older content in the show notes. If you go back to our old stuff, just the one that we did last year, there's 24 games there. There's probably another 20 in the previous one that are all still great, solid games, and most of them are in print. We're just going to focus on some newer, at least newer to us stuff this time.
And the 2-player games have been great because, well, life gets in the way and things have been very busy, but Mo and Dee are available with each other in order to play some games together. So it's a good time while we're all busy trying to deal with real life to get some 2-player gaming in there where you don't have to try and organize a big group trying to get together. As usual, though, this list is in no particular order, and starting us off.
All right, I've got Koale from Gigamic. Technically, the version we own is the mini or travel version. Any version of this counts. This Gigamix makes awesome wooden, what I would call heirloom games, the kind of things you like leave out on an end table and you just have as like a decoration in your house, like people used to have chess sets set up. This is Connect 4 meets Mancala, where you're placing stones and you're picking up, you're adding a stone to a stack of things, then picking them up and dropping them off one at a time, Mancala style, trying to get 4 in a row. We did review this one. If you want a more detailed overview of play or you want some pictures of the components, this is just a really nice abstract strategy game, small footprint, looks fantastic, tends to draw attention. This is one of those games where when we do bring it out to a coffee shop, we often get people either walking by slowly and kind of staring at what we're doing or actually asking, hey, what are you guys playing?
So I played this a ton with our eldest kid, and it was because we took it on a trip. But we've also played it a bunch at home. And one of the things that stood out for me is that I could have played this with the kids when they were way younger. So it's a great 2-player experience if you want to sit and play with your kids. It doesn't have different kind of couple. Everything else Mo already said about it pretty much.
Yeah, this is an easy one to teach. I can even teach this one when I'm at the table at our events. I can open up the box and say, look, this is what you do. You can check the rest in the rules, go to it. And, we don't even really need to send a teacher over there to help them out. It's that easy.
Yeah, and this one has proven to be rather popular at our public play events. A couple of the heavier chess fans in our local community have definitely taken to this one and tend to challenge each other when we're out at our events.
All right, well, next up, we've got another new one, the Architects of Amytis. This is from Bois de Jeu, and this is a city-building tile drafting game with, believe it or not, a tic-tac-toe element. That's something you don't hear too often.
I remember that's the part that made Mo go, why are we getting this game, Deanna? Tic-tac-toe game? And I'm like, no, it looks good.
Yeah, no, this one's really solid. We are going to be doing a full review later in the show if you do stick around for the second half. This one's from Bois de Jeu. We got it from Hachette, actually, at their booth at Gamma Expo. It's a city building game where you're drafting from a 9x9 grid and then playing tiles onto your 9x9 grid. But when you're drafting, you place a worker there. And if you manage to get 3 workers in a row, you actually get to unlock an endgame bonus. It's really well done. When I first saw it, I kind of dismissed this one. Deanna convinced me to give it a shot. and I'm so glad she did. It's one of those quick to learn, but not enough depth in it. It's got that puzzly feel, which I like in games, and the small footprint that I like in most 2-player games, because we do like to play these games when we're not at home. So we never know how big the table is going to be. This is one that fits on most tables.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to learn. It has a short learning curve. You can dive right in and enjoy it, but it's still crunchy enough to feel like you're playing a game. Next up, we have Floristry from Up Games. And speaking of easy to learn, this is probably the easiest to learn game in our entire collection. And I can back that up with the fact that I managed to teach it at our last public play event. So it's 10 rounds of Dutch auctions for domino-style flower tiles. You place them into a frame, and then you score your largest set of each flower at the end of the game, plus a bonus for whoever spent the least money in the auction. And it has this, it's a Dutch auction, which does have real-time elements, and there's an app with a timer built in, and you both put your finger down, and you pull your finger up when you're ready to go, and then you tap it when you're ready to bid. And I should hate it for that reason, because it's got that real-time element in it, but I love it, and I love how quick it is, because you can legit play through an entire game of this in 15 minutes.
Yep. When I was putting this list together, this one's next, because we're also reviewing this one later tonight. So if you want some more info on Floristry, stick around. This game's just great. It's one of those games I played it the first time. I was like, that's it. But it's so simple, but it's so smooth. And I know the term elegant game gets thrown around a lot, but I really think it applies to this game. Like, it's just almost one of those, like, why hadn't someone thought of this sooner? This is just so simple and works so well. And like the theme's kind of cute, and it just works and feels good.
So I'm going with Star Realms, Rise of Empire from Wise Wizard Games. This is the 2-player only legacy campaign version of Star Realms. And it's really legacy. It's stickers and changing your cards. We were a little surprised when we dove into it. There's only 2 factions. It is strictly a 2-player game, but once you're through the campaign, you can then play with up to 6 players with the cards provided in there and play the base rules. I don't know how we haven't gotten to the end of a campaign. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. There's 3 new factions in there, which is interesting. It's actually a prequel setting-wise to the original game. We just started this the other day, but we are loving it so far. So I can't say too much about it because we haven't gone through the whole campaign yet.
What was fascinating to me about this is everywhere online says this is a 2-player only game, and we put it on our list of 2-player games in our 2-player only section. But it comes with enough components to play 6 players. Like, you can play Hydra with this when you're done, which I don't see anyone talking about, though it's like clearly indicated in the rule book. But to be fair, the campaign, the thing you're supposed to play first, that has 12 scenarios to it, is 2-player only. And I was kind of blown away by this one because there's a lot of interesting things going on in it, especially that you only play, like, you're playing 2 of the factions in Star Realms, and then you're recruiting ships from the other factions. Very unique take on Star Realms. And then the part that's going to be really wonky to me is when you're done, it's then compatible with everything Star Realms. So I can now mash it up. Once we're done, mash it up with factions, or I can mash it up with Colony Wars or the original game. And I have no idea how that's going to work by throwing in, like, I expect most of the cards won't be upgraded by the end, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm super curious to see how that actually plays out.
And it's interesting. I suspect the 2-player focus is because it really is a 2-player game until you're done.
Yes.
And then once you're done the game, then it becomes a multiplayer, mix it in, do what you want game. But it starts off as a 2-player game.
Yeah. And it's just funky because we're opening it and I'm like, what's with all the sets of Vipers and I can't remember the other card. What's the other card that you start with? Explorers? Mm-hmm. No, Explorers are the ones you buy. Whatever. Vipers and whatever, the starting card. I'm like, why are there so many sets? And eventually there's 6 sets. And I'm like, why are there 6 sets? If I remember, there was like 8 sets because there were extras for the other 2.
All right. Well,
I was next up, baffled.
Next up, we've got Lone Wolves from WWBG. This is Battle Lore meets Trick Taking, a 2-player only area majority game with some unique mechanics.
This one's interesting. This is a 2-player only trick-taking game, which there aren't a lot of out there, that plays very different from the other ones I played. Again, reviewing this one later. That's our 3 reviews for later tonight, some 2-player games. So I'm not going to get into too much detail here. But basically, you have like a battle lore or Lost Cities like map where you're playing a tug of war between each of the different areas. But to play your cards there, you're playing trick taking. So one player plays down a card, then your opponent has to follow suit, but they can play their card in a different area. Then you determine who wins the trick, and the loser has to flip their card to the one side. But then there's a whole thing that when you lose a trick, you get to get these guard tokens, which can modify the math. And it's really fascinating. I'm smitten with this game. For some reason, it just works for me. And I think this is probably the best 2-player trick-taking game I've played. Up next, I've got an older game, but it's new to us. It was a lucky thrift store find, and that is Clask, the air hockey-ish magnetic board game. The company that publishes this, as far as I know, is also called Clask. This is a fantastic dexterity game that, again, kind of plays like air hockey using magnets, where you're manipulating a magnet under the board to move your piece on top. There's a ball, there's a goal you're trying to hit in, but then there's little funky rules, like these little tiny magnets that will attach to your mover, whatever, your puck. I don't even know what to call it. And if 2 of those attach to you, you lose. And the score tracking is built into it. It's like a nice wooden display game. There's a 4-player version out there that I hope to find at a thrift store sometime in the future. Mainly throwing this on the list for how popular it's been at our public play events. If this game comes out, people will play it. I set it up on a table. People will wander over, take seconds to teach, and then people will be playing it all night.
Yeah, and you need to find a different partner if you want to play that one. I did play it a bunch with our youngest kid the other day, and I sucked at it every bit as much as I thought I would, which she found very amusing.
This is one of those games that's just like, if you have a party, if you throw a party and there is an air hockey table sitting around somewhere that people can use, they will use it. And Clask is just that in a board game form. People have, so the one event we were at, people just sat there and played it for over and over and over and over and over again. It was pretty remarkable. All right. Next up though, we've got Azul Duel from Next Move Games. This is the hardcore Azul fans game. If you really want to get in there and only 2-player Azul with a little bit more table space taken up than regular Azul.
Yeah, this one's hard to talk about. It's interesting, and people are gonna love it or hate it. It's just the very basic premise, without getting into any of the details, is you are playing Azul, just like standard Azul, drafting tiles from a marketplace to put them on rows. And then when the rows are full, you're going to move 1 tile over to the scoring part of your board. But the thing is, you're also building the scoring part of the board at the same time. And that just adds an entirely new level to the game. Added to that are other changes like how the markets work that make it more tactical and strategic. And overall, it's Azul, but harder and more complicated with a bigger decision space. So to me, this is the game for those people who love Azul. I still think Azul plays perfectly fine with 2 players. I think it's a great 2-player game, or 4-player game that you can also play with 2 players. This is for people who want more than Azul, like the people who have mastered it and can already get to the bottom of the score track. There's a lot going on, a lot to learn, and there's a learning curve. It's wonky and just different enough. You can't just sit down and play as an Azul fan. There's enough little weird things. And I haven't decided my final thoughts on this one yet. I do enjoy it, but I know I'm sitting down to think when I'm playing this, whereas I can play Azul 2-player pretty casually.
See, I enjoy Azul, and I agree that it is a solid 2-player game. There's nothing wrong with it. But I enjoyed this more than 2-player Azul. I really loved this game. And I think I enjoyed it way more than you did. Like, to me, this is like, it was just a great go to the brewery and play a game. The only thing that was wrong with me for it is it took up more table space than I wanted it to. And it wasn't quite as flexible in the layout as Azul. It just takes up more space. And Azul, we can manage to sit side by each on a little skinny bar and play Azul, right? So that was my sole complaint about this game, and I would like to go play it right now.
Next up, we have Targi, which has been on our previous list, so I don't want to bring it up again like, oh, you talk about Targi every time you talk about this. It is that good. We should talk about it every time pretty much. But the reason I'm bringing up Targi is Targi with Targi the expansion. Targi with the expansion is significantly different enough at almost, I would say it feels like a different game, but it plays very differently. There's a lot more choices. There's a lot more options going on. Not only that, they rebalanced the game completely and took away my favorite strategy of just collecting silver. That is gone now. Using the silver mines over and over is not going to win you the game. They took the entire tribe deck from the base game and threw it out and replaced it with an entirely new one. There's a new resource, water, you have to track. And then my favorite part of these dune cards, so there's a way to actually play not on the main board, but off to the side, which does a couple interesting things. Besides giving you like really cool powers over there, you're no longer making as many intersections on the main boards. You're actually getting less actions and opening it up for more possibilities for your opponent, so it's harder to cut people off. I love the new Targia figure that works like the old Caravan, where if you play with her, you get random stuff. At first, when we first started talking about this expansion on the show before, when we were in our Bellhop's tabletop segment, I was a little torn. I kind of preferred the original. The more we have played with the expansion, the less interested I am in going back to the original game.
And now that they've rebalanced it, Mo doesn't win every game.
There is that. There is that.
Yeah, Targi and Targi the Expansion. That's really what it's called. Targi the Expansion.
Yes.
Even in German, even its original German name is Targi die Erweiterung, which is Targi the Expansion. But I do note that the Targi Expansion is rated at 8.1 versus a 7 point something for Targi.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Generally,
We're not
people
the only
like
ones.
the expansion.
Yeah, if you're a Targi fan, get the expansion.
Beer. I mean, yes, I like beer. Beer and Bread from Capstone. This is a heavier Euro-style game with multi-use cards that are used to collect resources, improve your engine, and you're either brewing beer or baking bread. The game is fantastic. I love that it's made specifically for two. I don't think there's a ton of options out there that are in the Euro-style sort of game that are specific to two-player. Fields of Arle is another one that immediately comes to mind, but this is a little. It's quicker, and it's not quite as like when you get into Fields of Arle, you're taking on a mission. This is something you can actually play in a more reasonable amount of time, though it is a bit tiny, just like an inch and a half more table space than I want it to take. But the game is so good.
Yeah, this one's weird. Beer and Bread, the table space wise, just speaking of table space, is long. And I'm like, it could fit, but it's a very long board. And because of that, it doesn't fit on your average like bar or coffee shop table, which is disappointing.
Yeah, we have to get creative.
We have to get creative with it. The last time we played, if I remember, the board was actually hanging off the edge of the table. But part of the game is tucking cards under the edge of the board. So even that didn't work great. We had to tuck them in different spots. But yeah, this is one of those, it gives that heavier game feel. Like Fields of Arle is a massive game. It takes up like our entire dining room table. So like I have it hard comparing that. Plus it's about 3 hour play versus 1 hour. Beer and Bread gives me that
This is more
feel.
compact. But then I was going to say it's more compact, but I'm like, but it's still a little bit larger than I want it for table space. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, I really love Beer and Bread. We will have a review of that one eventually. Deanna and I are still discovering the game. Surprisingly, it's been a pretty big hit at our public play events with people who were new to board games recently, like people who have come out to our events and we introduced them to Azul, and then we introduced them to some other two-player game, Boop, and we introduced them to Zensu. And then like they came out the last time, we're like, well, Beer and Bread's a little heavier. Like we're up for it. And they loved it. So it's been surprising to see this one go over well with people who, a few months ago would be considered non-gamers. All right, my next one is one we don't own. I wish we did. One that I would be bringing out to all of our public play events if I did own it. One that I think Sean and I would love playing against each other, and that is Compile. Specifically, I played Compile Main 1 with the Ox 1 expansion. This is from Greater Than Games. It's a great-looking small card game with some of the best card quality I've ever seen. Nice, thick cards. They might even be plastic. Like it's got a feel to it. This is one of the best dueling card games I played. I got to play a full game at Gamma Expo after getting a game overview. Again, it's got that battle line feel. Two-player battle line games definitely seem to be the thing right now. That's like the new theme is you are fighting over multiple areas and you're going to add up your cards on one side compared to the cards on the other to get something. That's part of this game. But this is also like Smash Up, where you pick 3 different decks, which I think are only 6 cards each. Don't quote me on that. And you pick 3 different decks, you shuffle them together, and that's what you're playing with. and then you're trying to win 3 different servers. It's 2 people battling against each other. I don't know. I can't really describe the game more without getting into too much depth, but I got to say Compile is awesome. And yes, it is still being published despite what some people are talking about with Greater Than Games. You can still get Compile Main 1 and Ox 1, and Compile 2 is on the way.
So I've got another game that we don't actually own yet, and that's Tug of War from Inside Up Games. This is one that we had the chance to play when we were at the Adam retreat. Mo and I played one full game of it with the 2 of us. And it is yet another battle line sort of style game, but this one involves drafting, and there's some asymmetry, and it's a mix of open and hidden card play, and it's a neat mix. And it's another one that plays quickly. I think it's in the 20-minute range, if I'm remembering correctly. It's not quite out yet. The Kickstarter is in the past, and I think this is going to be hitting retail in 2026, and is definitely worth keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with this one. This one was neat. This and Lone Wolves are surprisingly similar, which I think is just a case of concurrent design happening. I don't think there was any actual overlap here, but there's a definite strong feel between these 2 cards. But this one has a lot more areas you're battling for at once. And you know all the cards in your opponent's deck because you live draft in front of each other. Like the cards go out on the table, and it's perfect information. But then you got to try to remember, like, there's a lot of interesting things going on. And then every card suit has special abilities, but they only go off if you play pairs. Like, there's a lot of neat stuff going on in this game that makes it a little more thinky than other battle line style tug of war area majority games. And I really liked it.
If I had to do a head to head with this versus Lone Wolves, Tug of War would win for me.
There you go.
Well, next up, we've got Star Explorer. And this one from Queen Games is actually Queen Games taking and internationalizing Night Sky Explorers, a Polish game that did a limited English run in 2024, but was sold out within 2 days, and Queen jumped in and helped out to internationalize it. Now, this one is apparently coming from Gwen, who says it has been a huge hit with some players at her high school board game club.
Yeah, Gwen often helps us get ready for the show and grabs the games that are behind me for our backdrop. And she's like, "Why isn't Star Explorers on your list?" And I'm like, "I've never played Star Explorers with 2 players." She's like, "I play it with Lucy and my other friend all the time. 2 players. We play it all the time. It's fantastic. 2 players. You have to include it." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. I'll throw it on the list." I personally haven't seen this played 2 players, but I will say Star Explorers is very much a multiplayer solitaire game as it is. It's a flip and write. But like, you're not even drawing all the same thing where there's something in the middle flipped up. You're all drawing the same number, but everyone has a different pattern for their own unique number. Possibly a downfall to the game is the fact it's multiplayer solitaire, but honestly, it means it doesn't matter how many players you play with. For example, when we played this at Adam for the first time, with the Adam retreat, they opened up 3 copies, and I think we played with like 12 players or something like that.
Which works.
Because it works, right? Like, because everyone's doing their own thing. So this is just a neat game. It's a flip and right where you're drawing constellations, and there's some limits, and the starry sky turns every season, and you actually turn a disc inside. It's got a neat toyetic feel to it too.
Yeah, it's not just gimmicky. It's pretty cool. I'm going to lump the next 2 in together. I've got Confusing Lands and Sirens, which are both from Envy Born Games. And these are 2 great games that each plays quite differently, but what they share is that they're both small box, 18-ish card games that you can very easily fit in your bag. Heck, if you take them out of that tiny box, you can slip them in a safe pocket on your bag, and it gets even smaller. You can fit it in a wallet, basically. They also take up a really nice small footprint when you're playing, which is something that matters to me depending on where we're going. And that makes them the perfect take me out and play at a pub or coffee shop game.
Yeah, these are both really good games. I'm really impressed by what MV Born has been putting out recently. Hyped about their latest game, Hercules and the 12 Labors. These are just neat small box games, and they're working on promotions for both of these games. Small card expansion. So we actually have copies of both of those, but haven't had a chance to check them out. So if you are a fan of Confusing Lands and Sirens already, there is more coming.
Well, next up, we have some not 2-player only, but great with 2-player games, although we did have a couple of those sneak into the earlier list as well. First up, we have Corridor Pac-Man. Now, we're all Corridor fans. We've been for a huge, for quite a while. This brings a whole new element to it where it's not just a two-player game anymore, but can be played as a two-player game. We have reviewed this already. Check out our previous review because we are a little on the fence. Again, the base game of Corridor is still fantastic, but you can play up to 5 players with the Pac-Man expansion, and your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, honestly, Corridor is just great, and the fact you can play this another way is just a bonus. Like, if you don't own Corridor, this is like the cool version to pick up because it looks neat, if nothing else. Plus, you get another way to play.
That was the point I was going to make, that it is the base game of Corridor with added icing on top, right? So you get both. Harmonies. Draft tokens to build a habitat and attract animals. This plays every bit as good at 2 as it does at larger player counts. And with just 2, you can squeeze it onto a relatively small table, which has been my obsession of choice for topics of the evening.
Yeah, Harmonies is fantastic. Another one we reviewed. Check out our review. Great at all player counts. It's surprisingly good at 2. Like, it just feels tighter, even though it's not like the gameplay doesn't change. It just, I don't know, felt more engaging. I felt I was paying more attention to what my opponent was doing, which is part of the game, right? There was more hate drafting. There was more making sure you didn't get a thing. And I think it's just a matter of focus, that when you're playing with 4 players, it's too much to pay attention to. But when you're just playing one person and they're right across the table from you, you get that more of that engagement where you can like, oh no, you're trying to get that to finish that, and I'm not going to let you.
Like, the turn flow is still pretty quick. It's not bad at 4, but when you're at 2, it's just so quick with the back and forth, and you're really paying attention to what the other person's doing, and it really does make it.
Next up on the list, we've got Trash Talk, although we do seem to be the exception here because Board Game Geek doesn't even recommend you play this at 2.
See, I don't understand that at all. That makes no sense to me because at 2, there's not like the collaboration in this game I always found difficult. So Trash Talk is the game where one side's pandas, one side's pandas. That's not the right word.
Trash panda.
One side's raccoons and the other side are possum. And you can't speak the same language. So you have to talk with trash. And it's a word guessing game. Guessing is kind of stretched there. A word code game where you're trying to get people to guess words based on funky pieces of junk. The problem I have whenever I play with more than 2 players is people arguing. And they're like, no, I think it should be this. Well, I think it should be this. Well, it's dad, and dad would probably say this. And I'm like, I almost feel it's closer and more intimate with 2 people because then there's none of that debate over who meant what. It's just the one team versus another. That's also, at least my feeling on it.
Also, our kids have played this at 2 a lot. And I mean a lot. We're talking about dozens of games, and they were clearly having a good time with it.
Although I do think... I do think for some people that argument and that sort of byplay is part of the fun, like having that extra discussion and fight over. Well, no, we know them. They must mean that. Of course they mean that. No. But when they were 3, they had a horrible experience with a tiny firecracker. I don't know.
And that's what makes it a party game, right? Yeah. But
I think the thing is, it's not good with 2 as a party game because it's no longer a party game. It's a more intimate, and it reminds me of like Codenames Duet, right? You're more playing Codenames Duet and trying to end up on the same wavelength and actually connect with each other.
Actually, yeah. You know what was a hoot was when you played this 2 players with one of the guys from the company, and you had no shared experiences, and you crashed and bombed pretty bad because you're like, clearly, Cloud Car, Star Wars. How could you not be thinking that? And this guy's like, oh.
Well, we recommend it at 2.
All right. Maki Master, a kids game about making sushi from KTBG. And Mo and I, we have both loved this at 2 players. Don't let the kids part there scare you off. This is a solid game. This is not just a kids game. It's a bit on the lighter side, but that makes it great for pints.
Yeah, the kids game we like to play over beers. It works. No, this game I first played the game 2-player at BreakoutCon in Toronto with Gwen, and I was hooked on the game after one play. I was just like, this is really solid. And since then, we played at multiple different player counts. But again, it's one of those. There's something a little more intimate with 2 players, and you can pay a lot more attention to what your opponent's doing and what they're drafting and what they're going for, and you can mess with them better.
And you can be much meaner.
It's meaner. It's more cutthroat.
So next up, we've got Sonoda. This is Caltrops the board game. This is a 2 to 6 player game featuring movement and rolling of 4-player, pyramid style dice. But when you get down into that 2, it becomes a really cutthroat chess-like game.
Yeah, so when I learned Sonoda, again, this was at BreakoutCon. This comes from BS Games. I should have included that in here. It is like a super chess style game. Like every turn, you either move one of your pieces and you have to move it exactly the number of spaces shown on the die, or you roll the die up or down by 1. And then you're capturing the opponent's pieces, and by moving on them, and when you capture them, they're worth the points shown on them. So if you roll a thing up to 3, it's really powerful, but it's also worth 3 points to your opponent. And having now played this at multiple different player counts, 2 has that very solid chess-like outthink your opponent, try to plan 2-3 moves ahead thing. Once you throw in 3 or 4 players, there's just more chaos. It's much less predictable. It's easier for 2 players to gang up on each other. And then you get really interesting things where players are like, well, okay, if I take you, that'll let you take me, which will let her take them. And it just gets really interesting with that. But it depends what you want out of the game. And honestly, if you're looking for that chess-like outthink, outplay your opponent game with perfect information, Sonoda is fantastic at too. It's one of the most chess-likes for that. There are opening moves and people have developed closings, and the designers of this game could probably write a book on strategies for Sonoda at this point. If you're ever at a game convention, you can challenge them to a duel and you can win a sticker if you beat either one of them. And then they have tournaments where they give away these custom made dice that were made just for the game that no longer look like caltrops. They look like crystals.
So neat. All right, I'm thinking about Sherlock Solitaire, which is a 1 or 2 player game, and it actually plays better with 2. Like, it is devilishly difficult to play solo. There's 2 characters. You're playing either as Sherlock or as Watson, and they have complementary powers. So when there's 2 of you playing and you've got both of those complementary sets of powers in play, the game's beatable. And frankly, you can also solo as both characters and swap between the 2 of them. But it's just somehow more fun, more satisfying to actually have 2 players and each be doing one of the characters.
I always find it amusing that it's called Solitaire.
Well, it's technically a 1-player game, and it very much plays like Solitaire, like, Solitaire on your computer, where
making
you
patterns.
have to exchange suits between black and red, and you're making columns of cards and then moving columns of cards.
Right. So the name's actually apropos. They just didn't do a good job of explaining that on the back of the box, which is my ongoing complaint with that game.
And I will say the game is beatable with 1 player. Like, you made it sound like you can only win with 2, but you can win it. But it is definitely much easier, either playing 2 characters or with a person playing each of the characters. I actually really enjoyed it. I think it's really neat, but I went in with the expectation of it being card-driven solitaire, like you'd play with a deck of cards. All right, next one I have is interesting because it is the highest player count game on our entire list, yet here I am recommending it for 2, and that is Panda Royale. That is a game that plays, I think it's 10 players with each set. You can buy multiple sets and play with more players. This I'm putting on the list because I first played it with my daughter Eve, actually on Canada Day last year while we were out celebrating in Amherstburg, and we had a great time just playing 2-player. It's a nice game for if you're somewhere loud. You don't have to talk, like the dice are just there. So it's good for when you're in a loud brewery, bar, coffee shop. Plus there's something again about 2 players with the hate drafting with the dice. It's very, I'm against you, not just I'm trying to roll the best I can. So you get that confrontation feel, which is something Eve loves. And honestly, Eve and her sister Gwen play it against each other fairly often. They enjoy playing this game. And I know it's also been a hit at Board Game Club. So the highest player count game that I still think is fun with 2 would be Panda Royale from Next Move Games.
Because with multiple sets, you can technically play up to 100 or something silly like that,
yes.
Right? I'll give it to you, though. You'd have to tie me to a chair to get me to play this at 2 players.
All right. Well, next up, we've got something brand spanking new, not even in the public's hands yet, Ascension Legends. Kickstarter should be arriving in people's hands sometime around November of this year. Ascension has always played up to 4 players. It's kind of better as a 2-player game. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always loved Ascension. I don't know why. At some point, I must have lost my mind and got rid of our copy. I'm so frustrated that we don't have it because I want to introduce our kids to it. And I know why. It's because the app came out, and the app is really, really good. And it was one of the first deck building apps to be that good. So I slightly understand why we got rid of it, but like I miss it, and I wish we still had it. Well, this is the latest version. This is the newest Ascension. I actually got to play a full game at Gamma Expo and loved it. At the time, didn't quite realize it wasn't going to be out for that long. The new thing here is that there's a tracker you're going up levels on, and there's a track for each of the factions in the game. And at the top is a randomly determined hero card that sets abilities. So when you hit different levels going up the tracks, things happen. Plus, there's some end game scoring, and it's really simple. It's just a matter of if you buy a green card, you go up the green track. You buy a purple card, you go up the purple track, and if you buy a green and blue card, you go up both tracks. Like, it's that simple. It's all about when you're purchasing the cards, but it gives you reasons to purchase cards you might not have, because Ascension, I will admit, in the original printing of the game, tended to be a game where it kind of played itself, where you just bought the most expensive card you could. This changes that up and gives you reasons to either specialize in a faction or to diversify. And playing that game felt like riding a bike. It felt like coming home, and it made me want to play Ascension. So much so that we went to BreakoutCon, and I was really bummed they didn't have a copy in the game library to teach Gwen. And then I came home, and I'm like, I'm going to show you our copy. And I'm like, oh, I must have got rid of it. Sorry, Stoneblade. I love your game.
I haven't played Ascension in ages, and I love that game. And to my defense, I think I was arguing against you getting rid of it. I swear. But hey, now we have an excuse to get Ascension Legends.
There you go.
And after 15 years, overwhelmingly, Ascension is listed as best at 2 players.
Yeah. Yeah, it works at more player count. I don't even know what makes it better at 2. Again, I think it's that ability to focus on what your opponent's doing when they're directly against you.
Yeah, it's just too much going on when you start adding other players, and things can slip in. You can't really, focus on what you need to be doing to make sure you're staying in the lead or whatever. Yeah, it's
the market changing 3 times before your next turn. I mean, that's a big one too.
All right. Well, last up we have the Artemis Odyssey.
This one is from our previous sponsor, Grand Gamers Guild. It's the update to Ad Astra. One of the things that changed is Ad Astra was 3-player and up. Artemis Odyssey added a 2-player mode. Yes, normally 2-player modes mean bad things, but in this game, it actually worked really well. I was actually kind of shocked, because this is a game where the majority of the scoring in the game is based on area majorities, or majorities in general, not necessarily area, but majority scoring, like who had the most resources, or who has the most planets, or who has the most starships. Usually with 2 players, that doesn't work because it becomes a me or you thing, but they made it work. And part of this was throwing in a special deck of events that happened, which I thought were going to simulate a 3rd player, where, certain things that get claimed. No, they didn't do that. Instead, they made it so it just rewards everyone with stuff, which I thought was really cool. And I don't know what they did right here, but more people need to pay attention to this game, because this is a game with with majorities. I keep saying area, with majority scoring that works really well at 2 players somehow.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. I was so hesitant to try this at 2, and it is so darn good. Like, I might even prefer it at 2.
All right, well, next up, we have some honorable mentions. And this one, we're going back in time for this, in different ways, actually. First up, we've got one that we've called out many times over the years, and that is Hive.
Yeah, this has been on every 2-player game list so far. We skipped it. It was on our original one. I was going to skip it again because we brought up Hive many times. Hive is actually one of our most sold games through links from our website. Like, people read about Hive and go buy it. The reason I want to bring it up, though, is we started playing again, and 2 things factored into this. One was she picked up an upgrade, and it's a bunch of stickers from Levity Games. Amon Anderson will throw a link to his Etsy shop in the show notes, that told you, and all it was is stickers that go on the back of your tiles that tell you how they all move. So you no longer have to remember how every different insect moves. You don't have to check the rule book, and if you forget, it's right there on the back of the tiles, which honestly has made the game much more accessible, even at our public play events. Like, this is a game where, like, yes, I could teach it pretty quickly. I played enough times. I have it remembered, but people are intimidated by it. By just having those stickers there, they know they can flip them over. It's much easier to pick up. The other thing is all the years we played Hive, we tended to play with just the base. Well, now we own all 3 of the expansions. All 3 of them add something unique to the game. For anyone who's a fan of Hive, I do recommend picking these up, but pick them up one at a time. Don't throw them all in at once, because each adds something new and kind of changes the way the entire game plays. Like there's a definite different feel as soon as you throw a mosquito in there. And your strategies will have to adapt because your opponent has a mosquito and because you can use one. Even more so the pill bug, which does funky stuff that's going to mess with everybody, because pill bugs can pick up pieces and move them. Or is that the ladybug? I forget between the two. I think that, yeah, that's the pill bug. The ladybug's the one that can climb over it. But as soon as you throw one of these in, you've changed all the variables, right? Every piece now works differently because you have to adjust based on that new piece being in there. So we're tossing Hive back on here for as an honorable mention, because we mentioned it before, but just as a, hey, pick up these stickers because it made the game super approachable. Plus, try out the expansions if you haven't yet. Again, one at a time.
As silly as it is, those stickers, I have holes in my brain. If we don't play for a couple months, I'm like, oh no, now I got to ask Mo 20 times what every bug does because I'm not going to remember. That's it. It just makes the game more playable for me.
All right. Well, next up, we're going back 48 years back to something that you're probably not going to easily find a copy of in your stores, but that is Touché.
Yeah, so this one is from 1977. I found it at a thrift store, and the reason I picked it up is I remember my dad owning this and it being upstairs in our attic, and we never played it. And what my dad used to do is research before buying a game, and if my dad owned it, there was a reason he owned it. This is a fantastic game. It's a Connect 4, but there's magnets under the board, and when you place your piece, it might flip over. And it's a set thing so that if it flips over for you, it won't flip over for your opponent. And there's way more strategy because of that. And there's some funky rules. It's toyetic. The pieces are in these little domes. It is just so good. This is a game that is getting played more than even Classic at our public play events, as long as we set it up and someone's around so that when people look at it, you can teach them quickly. You can be like, nope, here, let me show you how to play. You're going to like this. And people love it. And they take turns. And our heavy chess players love it. And there's one of those games where there's emerging gameplay where you're like, especially the learning that if it's red for a square, it's white for a circle. And the fact you don't just move your own piece, you can move any piece on the board. It is a game that needs a reprint. Now, I will point out, and I'll probably throw the link in our show notes will be to this. There are copies on Noble Knight for like $18. So it's not like it's not out there, but you are buying older used copies of the game.
Now, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't just memorize where the magnets are either because they actually move around.
Yeah. So
is that correct? Yeah.
There are 4. I'm messing up the number. There are a bunch of plastic things that hold the magnets underneath that you not only can swap around like from rows and columns, you can turn them so you can do this way. 5. So there's 5 of these things. You can put them in this way, any number of different combinations. You can turn them and put them in this way. You can flip all of them over. And somewhere in the rules talks about how there's like 13,000 something possible combinations of magnets. Like just take them, shuffle them in your hand them to your opponent and tell them to put them down. Like there's no way to figure it out, but they do stay consistent for the one game. So like for that entire one game, this square will turn squares to white and circles to red.
So yeah, it's a 5x5 grid you're playing on, and you have five magnet strips that you can lay northwest or north south or east west and flip over because the north and south poles of the magnets make the difference. So yeah, I mean, just permutations galore.
But for me, what made it was you're not just going to memorize it every time I step on the second square from the right, this happens, right?
Yes.
As opposed to that one game that we played as a vintage game, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it had the holes. And you just have to kind of remember the next layer down, this happens. Right. And the next layer down, the holes are going to do this. And it's the same every time, right?
All right. But that's not the same either because you rotate the hexes on that and they change every game too.
Oh, I thought it was the same.
No.
All right, next we're going back in time in a whole different way with Julius Caesar, Pompey, and the Roman Civil War.
Yeah, this is one of the oldest games on my pile of shame. This is a game that I think I've packed for every date night. Every time we've gone overnight in Kingsville planning to play it, and we never do. On our anniversary trip around Southwest Ontario, Deanna and I finally played this. This is a Columbia block war game. This is in print. You can still get it. This game is readily available from Columbia Games website. It's probably on Amazon. Your friendly local game store very well could have a copy of this if they stock block war games. The reason I put it as an honorable is because I kind of said new games for 2 players, and this definitely is not a new game in any way. This is a fantastic Columbia block war game. It is one of the best ever published. It is a great 2-player war game, but it does have a few foibles, like a map that's too small for the blocks, an almost unreadable font, and the fact that if you don't know your Mediterranean geography, you're going to have a real hard time figuring out where you can recruit certain units. But honestly, like, we haven't played a game like this in a number of years, and it was great to sit down and play this style of war game again. We have recommended Hammer of the Scots on many 2-player lists. Now I have to throw Julius Caesar on as well, which is from the same company and designers.
Okay, yeah, I agree. This was fun. I really enjoyed playing it, but it is a table hog, and there's a decent learning curve. Like, you need to front load a lot of info to play this game, after which it's fairly straightforward, but the setup is finicky. So the setup plus the teach time can make this a bit on the long side, particularly if it's your first time getting it to the table, and that might not make it great for public play.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think this is a good public play game. Like, this isn't our best 2-player public play game, so most of these are games we bring on date night. This is like a 3 to 4 hour game if you play through all 5 years, if the game goes that long. So it can be long.
All right. Well, we got some action in the chat room here. A few people have tossed in some things. First off, we've got Ryan mentioning Everdell Duo.
Heard good things. I've not played it myself. Probably worth checking out sometime. We have not played any of the Everdell games. It's like just a gap in our collection. I don't know anyone local that has them. Roger's in the chat room probably going to speak up and say I have it. But never been out to a public play event. No one's ever played it at one of our events. So the dual game sticks with that one. It's honestly one we should probably reach out to see, because we do like talking about 2-player games so often. I think we can make some good comparisons.
All right, next up, we've got text 26474 as Ask Splendor Duel.
All the same words Mo just said about Everdell. No, except we've played Splendor.
Yeah, honestly, Splendor Duel, I'm really curious about, especially after playing Azul Duel, which I don't know why the two are related in my head. But I'd like to see what they've done with Splendor. Splendor, it like Azul Duel, confuses me because Splendor plays really well with 2. I don't know if we put it on a previous list, but it's a multiplayer game that to me plays very well as a 2-player game.
Yeah, I've played it a bunch with the kid at 2, so yeah.
Next up, we've got the networks, or the rival networks, which, again, yes, same thing, though, blah, blah, blah. Personally, though, I think the networks plays great at 2. So...
Yeah, you and D played that at 2. I have not played the networks at 2, but again, it's one of those. Sometimes I wonder why they made 2-player games, versions of games that are already good with 2. But I think part of it's just the marketing, that people don't realize that they're good 2-player games. I almost wonder if like they could put out Azul Duel, and all it is Azul with only 2 boards and only the 2-player rules.
Beyond Dead 13, Spirits of the Wild, which is apparently getting a reprint later this year.
Is that 2-player? I've seen that game many times. It's got great components. Same thing for the last ones. Their chat's bringing up all the stuff we've never played, which is kind of impressive. I like it.
And yes, Spirits of the Wild is 2 only. It's a 2 only game from Mattel.
This is the first one I hadn't heard of.
Oh, you've seen it. If you see pictures of it, you'll be like, I know this. It's like, well, it's Mattel. I was going to say it's a Hasbro game, but it's not Hasbro. It's Mattel.
And actually, interestingly, yes, Spirits of the Wild Awakening is the new version, the re-implementation that's coming out this year. So,
not one I know.
Ryan says, Uno, the best 2-player fist fight. I actually just Googled through a few of the 37 different versions of Uno out there, including Duo. And not one of them is recommended at 2 players.
Not even Duo?
No, not even Duo.
Well, no, it's Duo as in number 2.
Yeah,
okay.
It's the follow-up to Uno.
It sounds like
you'd think, you'd think, but no.
No, it is not 2-player Uno.
And then
There's
Roger Dodger asks if we mentioned Unmatched, which we did not.
No, again, this isn't a game that has been out at one of our public play events. I've never played Unmatched. I played Star Wars Epic Duels years ago. and don't remember much about it other than it was a Star Wars game and it seemed like it was for kids and wasn't all that interesting to me. So no, we did not mention Unmatched. That one now is probably couldn't really be considered newer, but it is definitely popular. Restoration continues to put out new stuff for it. I can't even remember what the latest sets were. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was one of the more recent, but they've got a brand new starter coming. I couldn't tell you, who's in it though.
All right, well, hopefully that is more than enough two-player games to keep everyone busy. This isn't the first time we've talked about two-player games, and all of our previous two-player game recommendations still stand.
Yeah, as Deanna mentioned, we'll be sure to toss links to our previous episodes and articles just in case that wasn't enough. Plus, most of the stuff, I got to say, like maybe that's a testament to two-player games and the games we recommended. Most are still in print. This is not one of those, like, sometimes we talk about a topic where we revisit and it's like, yeah, you'll never get any of those older games. In this case, most of the stuff we've recommended is still popular and still in print. It seems like making good two-player games means a good evergreen game for a lot of publishers. So I can see why they put out so many.
So on the note of show notes, remember you can always find show notes for every podcast episode, including links to all the games we mentioned, as well as other useful stuff over on our website. Just type in tabletopbellhop.com and then a / followed by the episode number. So for example, you can find the notes for this episode over at tabletopbellhop.com / episode 276.
Welcome to the Bellhop's Tabletop, where we talk about the games that we've been playing lately.
All right, so the big thing that happened since we were last here is we hosted our first ever event at a place called The Cookie Bar here in Windsor. It's on Drouillard Road in a revitalized area of the city known as Ford City. Went really well, perhaps too well in a way, because we ran out of tables at the beginning of the night. But that didn't surprise me at all because it's not a big space. And honestly, it wasn't that bad once things got going. It was just at the initial, like when the event opened, once kind of people finished their first round of games and started splitting up, then there was room. But if you showed up in that first hour and couldn't find a table, I do apologize. My recommendation would be show up early, order some food, and save yourself a table next time.
I hated turning people away. Not that I was literally turning people away. It's just they walked in and were like, my group of 5 has nowhere to sit and play a game. And I'm like, you could split up and you could sit here and you could have a drink and a cookie, but you couldn't get all 5 of you at one table playing a game, right? So it was bugging me, but it was bugging me like it was a logic problem that I felt I should have been able to solve. Like, I'm like, those 3 people are sitting there. If I asked them to move and then I did this and we put those 2 high tops together, maybe I could. And I went, all right, forget it. I give up.
Yeah, and to me, I just think people need to be aware. This is a smaller space. It's first come, first serve. No, we're not going to start selling tickets or taking reservations. Show up early if you want a table, or honestly, show up later. Like show up halfway through the event, because halfway through the event,
well, we can't guarantee that'll happen, but
no,
yes.
Can't guarantee. Or call ahead. Like use my cell phone. I don't know. Call and say, hey, do you have any tables available? Couple things we are going to do to try to make it a little better next time is we're going to bring more games that we're comfortable with people bringing outside, because they do have a large, really nice patio there. Though we have to watch our components and wind and things blowing away, so it's going to take a bit.
We will
probably
have
going
a
to
patio approved list. Yeah,
Hive is a great patio game.
Yes, Hive is one. But yeah, we're probably going to tweak our menu actually, because the other thing I'd like to encourage people to do is play up at the bar, because they have a surprisingly deep bar. It's almost 3 feet deep. So there's actually lots of room to play games and still have your drinks off to the side without getting in the way of the bartenders. So I think we're going to make a list of like bar friendly games, as in play them at the bar, like Azul 2-player. As for the event, popular games included Endangered, Shobu, Boop, Clask. Again, we were talking about Clask earlier. Set that up. People will play it. Edo. I don't know how many rounds of Edo they played, but it was at least 5, 6, maybe 12. Splendor, Survive the Island. There were quite a few families. We were a little concerned about this because it's at a place called the Cookie Bar that sells cookies, and it's board games. And due to some of the advertising, kind of found like it might be for a kids event. So there were a lot of kids, but thankfully the parents with little kids tended to bring their own games, which was pretty awesome. Plus the Cookie Bar has some classics on hand. They have Rock'em Sock'em Robots and a few like flicking games and stuff. Overall, I think it went pretty well. there are things we're going to try to improve on for the next event, but I think the most important thing that I'm happy about is there will be a next event. They were the bar was very happy with the results of the night and has asked us to come back. Right now, the plan will be the first Thursday of every month, but watch our socials to confirm that, because I still haven't actually heard back from the owners to confirm our next month.
It was a super fun night, and I'm really excited we get to do it again next month. And I get to have delicious cookies and craft beer. Like, there's it.
Yeah,
and you love the coffee too.
Oh yeah, actually, I didn't have beer last time. I had their coffee, and it was. I need to go back and ask them what they were serving. Like, maybe it was from across there's a good coffee shop across the way there. Maybe they get their beans from there.
And I'm just looking forward to actually being there next time. So there we go.
Now, one of the things that like is a bonus for me personally is due to the lack of space meant there weren't a lot of people learning games at the same time. Generally, the tables would fill up and people would need to learn a game, and I would teach the game, but then that table would be good for the next hour or so. And other people, again, brought their own games. So I actually had time to play some games this time, which was kind of nice. I don't always get to do that at our Walkerville event. First one I did, I'm saying I played this one, but I mostly played this one, is Emerald Skulls. I took part for a bit, but then threw my money in and let the group continue. I was super excited to finally get a group to play this at a public play event, because I think this game is going to go over well if we can get people playing it. Mm-hmm. The group playing it were all experienced gamers and enjoyed it. They didn't love it. And I think part of that was I set them up with the basic betting cards. And I think I need to do is get the experienced gamers to use the advanced betting cards, but then I don't want to teach the game with the advanced betting cards. I did try to encourage them to play a second round with the advanced rules, but they wanted to move on to something else, which is fair because the group that was there wanted to try new things. There was someone who hadn't been out to one of our events since before COVID, and they actually showed up with a shopping list, having already downloaded our menu and bringing their own copy with a list of the games they wanted to try. So once they checked off Emerald Skulls, they were on to wanting to play something else. So fair enough.
What I loved was people were mixing up. People were willing to play with strangers. And what's his name? Scott was the rock star of the evening for me, because he not only did that, but he also taught games to people. He's like, oh, you know what? I said, do you want to come over here and play Splendor with these people that are looking for another player? And he's like, oh, yes, not only will I do that, but I can teach it. I'm like, oh, hey, thank you. I'm out. And then they ended up playing 2 rounds of Splendor and then rolling that into Azul, which he also taught. So he was my hero of the evening because he made my night easy.
And huge thanks to everyone who comes out to our event willing to bring and teach games. Like, that is greatly appreciated. I love it when people do that to free us up to take care of the people who are brand new, who are inexperienced gamers, who need to be handheld and taught a little bit more and guided. So I love it when someone who's experienced that can do that. Next up, brand new to us game off the pile of shame and obligation, and that is Dawn. This is a hidden role game that I agreed to check out because I generally don't like that style of game all that much. And they tried to convince me that you'll like this one because you can change your role and it's not publicly known. There's no accusation phase. There's no, at the end, you have to determine who the traitor is. So there's none of that. So in a way, it's deduction, but not necessarily social deduction, though that can be part of the game. This is a really neat game where you are building a city and you are contributing cards from your hand to do it. Now, anyone who's played Battlestar Galactica, and it's kind of like the skill check phase, but turned into an entire game where everyone is playing it at once. And there are buildings to be built. There are threats to deal with, and there are different types like plague or raiders, or I forget what the other one is. And they all require different cards, but you're playing all your cards face down. So when you're trying to get a building built, all that matters is the amount of treasures played there. Well, some of the cards have negative treasure on there and you play face down, so you don't know who played what. And like to defeat a barbarian threat would need, say, 4 sword cards played, 4 red cards played. Well, some of the people can play cards there and not play a red. And then everyone plays their entire hand of it's up to 9 cards, and you play your whole hand out. The next player plays their whole hand. The next player plays their whole hand. You go around the table. Then you take the decks and shuffle each one and then see if the building got built or see if the plague got stopped or see if the thing got done. And you don't know who played what. Now, at the start of every round, you have to cash a card and you put this under your player card. And that determines your role. But at any time during the game when it's your turn, you can swap the cards out from your storage or not. So you can change it. And then it's based on how much treasure. And at the end of the game, you reveal it, and everyone reveals if they were an ally, which is you're all working together to build the city. And the allies win if you've gotten 30 points worth of stuff per player who's an ally. So if you're playing 5 players and 3 people are allies, you only need 90 points to win. But if everyone's an ally, you need 5 times 30, 150 points to win. Right. So I thought that was really neat. But then if the city isn't built by the allies, it's then the saboteur who has the most treasure they hoarded throughout the game who wins. And it can only be one winner then. There's some rule for ties. I don't remember what the ties are. But it was just like a combination of neat, simple mechanics. So I got to admit it was awkward at first. Like it just felt weird and it's not intuitive. Like it's a game you almost have to watch around. And like, I almost want to teach this game by getting a bunch of experienced players to sit down and play around and then have them swap spots with the new players. Cause it wasn't easy to teach and was hard to describe.
It sounds like there's a lot going on there. I was surprised by how long that game of Dawn lasted. And I have to say, it's this little tiny box.
Yes.
So it just doesn't look like much. And I know I'm always saying I hate that they ship games with all this empty space, right? But there is this thing, tiny box, tiny game, not going to be a big, complicated, long game because it's a wee little box. And it bucked that. So
I'm actually really interested in this. And not only that, but also what Green Meadow Games is doing. Because this is actually part 2 of a 4-part game series. Now, these aren't the same four different versions of the same game. They're very different games, but they're all these small box card-based games. The original one was where was it? Dawn, Daylight, Dusk, and Darkness. Darkness was the first one. Yeah. Darkness, then Dawn, then Daylight.
Darkness always comes before the dawn.
And then Dusk. So the Daylight, which is the next game, is going to be a pure co-op game, whereas the Dusk is actually going to be a legacy game. So it's really interesting that they're putting together this sort of small box series of games that are loosely related. I'd be interesting to actually to play more of them and see if some of that sort of difficulty becomes easier if you've played other games in the series.
Yeah, possibly. Like other thing Deanna said, like it seemed more complicated. This is not a complicated game. It just doesn't play how you'd expect. Like little things, like you play a card game where players have a hand of cards. You expect to play one card or maybe a set of cards and the next player goes. Playing your entire hand just felt wrong. Like it just felt weird. And it worked. Like once we got past it, like the first round was slow. Once we started going, it was really quick. It was like, all right, I throw my cards here, here, and here, and I'm done. But like it just didn't play the way I wanted it to. Like, you know how sometimes we're like, oh, this game's easy to learn because it's just intuitive. This wasn't. But then it worked. Like the end result was very rewarding. Actually, before the cookie bar was probably the big thing that happened. There was a game night at Brenda's that I missed out on due to feeling off that day. The two of you played Reign of Dragoness with the family, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I pretty much shared my thoughts about that one before. What do you think about it, Sean?
It was good. It was different than I was expecting. And I think I would play it differently. Give it a second time. Like the second time, it was the first hand was there. The first time through was definitely a learning thing. It's an interesting game because I feel like we were playing it. What did we have? 5 of us? Five. There were 5 of us there. And the hands really are very. My first thought, and this may have been my fault, is my first thought was, oh, this is kind of like Haggis. And I think I got that into my head a bit more than I should have. Because while there are similarities, it's not like Haggis. There are some pretty big differences. The egg in particular, doing some things in there, the revive egg. And so I think I probably got a little bit caught out by going into it with the wrong mindset. But it was fun, and I would definitely play it again, especially just in order to get a hold of it. I do still feel, though, this is probably one of those games that would be really easy to just play all the time on Board Game Arena, like I do with Haggis. And would I need to play it in a group all the time? Probably not.
So you play with 5, so you didn't try the drafting variant where there's cards face up, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
This is a break it out with your grandma and your aunt game, I think, because it's just very approachable. And, my one kid really, really likes it and was excited to see it hit the table again. I get what you mean about it just takes like just one round to figure out what's going on. And because I remember the first round, I went to the second or third round of the game and realized I have my cards organized in the wrong fashion for what's going on in this game. I need to reorganize my hand. I've been doing it wrong for the first 2 rounds. Now I see what's going on.
Yeah, I had mine completely wrong as we were playing that first hand. Even I'm like, oh no, hold on, shuffle. Okay, now I can play.
Of all the games we played, it reminds me the most of the Great Dalmoody, but it's still not that.
Yeah.
Right? Like the egg changes it. The fact you can do streets. It's not just sets of cards of the same number. I don't know. I'm still digging it. I need to still play with the expansions before we can review it. I want this to get out at public play events and get people playing it. It hasn't happened yet. I think we've had it at a couple events, but what we need to do is I need to be available to teach it and be like, hey, I think you will enjoy this. Like handpick people I think that would enjoy it and play it with them.
Having Sean constantly compare it to Haggis made me want to go play Haggis on Board Game Arena. Just to see what I'm not familiar with it at all. So
I would actually like to see this played with the higher player counts, because I notice on Board Game Geek, there aren't even anyone who's voted. Like there's very few votes on player counts. So whoever's voted has only played it at like 4 and 5 players. So I'd like to see it.
It's still a fairly new game. This isn't the latest game from Grandpa Beck. It's Countdown, I think, is his latest game. This is the one just before that. So this is still pretty new.
But we walked up and said, we like X. And he said, take home Y.
Yes.
That's what happened.
Oh, yeah. I went to Grandpa Beck and I said, we love Skull King. What would you recommend for a group that likes Skull King? And he went, Reign of Dragoness. I'm like, all right, cool. All right. After the cookie bar, Dee and I were still kind of in a gaming mood. I got to play some games at the event. She didn't. So we actually finally cracked open the rather large box for Star Realms Rise of Empires from Wise Wizard Games. Now, there are so many versions of Star Realms out there, and I realize there's some Star Realms fatigue out there, as well as some confusion with the brand and what you start with and what you don't. And that sucks because Star Realms is awesome. I adore the Star Realms system. So cutting through all of that, this is a standalone, completely new Star Realms experience with nothing tying it to the other games except for the core mechanics. The gameplay is still the same. It's still the Star Realms you played before. It is a 2-player only campaign game with 12 parts that is a legacy game where you will make permanent changes to your cards. Permanent changes in the form of stickers. To my knowledge, there is no destruction, no ripping anything up. And Wise Wizard, for people who don't like stickers or having cards with stickers on them in your completed deck, does sell a pack of every possible combination of cards so you can just play with standard normal size cards. In addition to that, when you're done the campaign, this is now a 6-player Star Realms box that you can use to play Star Realms in every version and mode that has ever been published, and is fully compatible with everything that's ever been produced, as well as everything that will be produced for Star Realms. I think that's the important thing Star Realms fans need to know. Now, it is so different from playing Star Realms because there are 2 factions. There is the Trade Federation, which are the blue cards from the base games, the ones that tend to give you authority, and the Star Empire, which are the yellow cards from Star Realms, which tend to make your opponent discard cards and have lots of draw card abilities to cycle through your deck. There is a full story here that has a very Star Wars feel. The Trade Federation runs the universe. They put up a trade blockade. Trade disputes have led to a rebellion, and the Star Empire is rebelling. This is all happening years before the core Star Realms game, before the factions everyone knows and loves from Star Realms. The trade deck has 3 completely new factions you've never seen before. You're not going to find a blob. You're not going to find any Trade Federation. They don't exist. You have 3 new factions, 20 cards from each in your 60-card deck. Thematically, while you're playing, each of you chooses a side. If you play the Trade Federation, you're playing the Trade Federation for all 12 games. You're playing the Star Empire. You're playing the Star Empire for all 12 games. Then when you're using your it's not authority, your coins, whatever, to buy new cards, that represents you recruiting that ship from that faction to your side. You can overpay. And if you do that, not only is the ship helping you out for this game, it's now joined your side permanently, and you put stickers on it. And that new one now has 2 factions. So if you're Star Empire, it's going to be whatever. I forget the 3 new faction names. Sorry. It's now Star Empire and that new faction. And next time that card gets bought, it counts as a Star Empire card. And it goes off for all of the combos and all the things you love about Star Realms.
The 3 factions are the Consortium, the Scavengers, and the Kingdom.
There you go. So all of these also have an ability that when you buy them, they do something, which is newish to Star Realms. There was some of that in the faction cards, a couple. Every single one of these new cards, when you buy it, does something, which is also a new thing. Those abilities go away once you've recruited them because you overlay that part of the card with the sticker. That pretty much gives you what you need to know. I don't think that spoils anything in a way that ruins the surprise for anyone. And honestly, I think it's stuff I wish I'd known going in a way. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up. There are new ways to win. We've only played the first game. There are 2 new ways to win. And here's where I'm not going to spoil it, is how the new victory are. There are dials to track authority, which I love. Thank you. Because I'm sick of the old way with 1 million cards and the new way with 2 cards that you're supposed to do like euchre, but then someone bumps the table. Dials are nice. My only complaint so far, it is an absolutely massive box for a very small amount of cards.
Yeah,
and I don't understand why. I don't. I think it's marketing. It's, look, this is a big game with 12 parts and it's legacy. It could have been in the Star Wars faction box. Like it's like the spot to put the dials is like
big
3 inches
based on
deep.
what we have going on there.
It could also be, I mean, it's a 200 card expansion if you want to get the to not use stickers. So they could be allowing room for that.
Yeah, that's it's every possible card with any possible sticker on it, which we do not have a copy of. We were supposed to pick up a copy at Gamma, and we didn't make it back to the booth before the hall closed, so we didn't bring a copy of that home. Because I will admit, my one concern about the game is shuffling cards with stickers on them. So far, it hasn't been an issue. And you shuffle a lot. It's a deck builder, right? You're going through your deck multiple times. It has not been an issue, but I could see it being one. Like, I'm concerned that stickers are going to catch or something, or I'll be able to tell the card on the top of my deck's thicker or something. But honestly, it hasn't been a problem.
The other nice thing,
it just makes me want to sleeve it.
The other nice thing about the Infinite Replay kit, MSRP of $34, is you can reset the game. So Mo and Dee are going to play through this whole thing. While if Mo wanted to play it again with me, we could with the Infinite Replay kit.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's a cool thing. I kind of wish we did have it just for that reason. All I got to say is I opened it and I was like, whoa, this is not just Star Realms. Like, this isn't like every other Star Realms expansion. It's like, oh, it's a new trade deck. Oh, okay. And the factions kind of do the same things they've always done. And I know what I like to collect. And I have favorite factions I like to play. I tend to be all about the Trade Federation and thinning my deck. That's how I tend to play the game. Interestingly, I hate yellow. And that's who I'm playing in this campaign. They're my least favorite faction in Star Realms. So that's going to be interesting.
To swap.
I don't want to stop now. Now we bought stuff.
No, I meant at the beginning.
Yeah,
there's just something very satisfying about putting stickers on cards that I kind of like in legacy games. So
yeah. Now Red Meeple Ryan calls out a big box for all the other Star Realm stuff, and I'm thinking that's probably what it's going to become for me. Though I'm really questioning mixing this in with the rest of my Star Realm stuff. Because for one thing, you're going to have way too many blue and yellow cards compared to all the other factions once you do that.
It's going to be a heady mix,
right? It's we'll see. All right, next up, we have, this does happen often, and it changes as often as her favorite color, but Eve has declared her new favorite game, and it's a nice meaty one, so she's starting to take after Deanna here, and it's Kutna Hora from our friends at Czech Games Edition. We have had this in the pile of shame and obligation for far too long. What we actually have is a demo copy of the game, like a con demo version of the game that CGE was cool enough to let us take home. This is a fantastic medieval city building economic game about the city of Silver. So it's historically based that, oh my gosh, is about the bureaucracy of guilds in the Middle Ages. Like that is this game. Literally in this game, what you are doing is you are going to the town hall to get a permit to build a building. The next step is to then go purchase a plot of land. Once you have a building and a plot of land, you can then build the building. Once you built the building, you finally start to get income. In addition to that, there's a whole thing where you are digging the silver mines, which is kind of like a separate mini game that plays concurrently with getting permits, getting building leases, and getting plots and building buildings. The fascinating thing in this game is the way the economy works is it's really, I would call it a resource management game and a resource collection game, but you don't track any of that. Everything is money and everything is converted as you need it with this unique real-time economy using 2 decks of cards and these interesting sliders. And that's, without getting into detail, I think that's all I'll say about it. It is extremely well done. It is extremely enjoyable to play. Huge props to CGE for having the metal coins in there, because holy cow, these are some of the nicest metal coins I've ever felt. If you play any game with metal coins and dominations of 1, 5, and 30, you may want to pick up the Kutna Hora metal coins for any other game because they're that nice.
There was like this little brain glitch for me with the fact that I make permits and I want to spend permits and I cannot spend the permits that I am making. And I just had to click in that that doesn't matter. During my production, that just turns into money. And when I need permits, I spend the money. And we never actually have the permits. We just have the money. And yeah, it was just this little, I had to click for me. Eve loved that game so much. She just kept going on about everything makes sense. It just all makes sense. And it does, because the theming, it matters. It was so tightly themed that it is a rather complex game. Everything you do is so tightly tied to theme that all the steps just make sense. And when we were done, she said, I want to play this game once a week.
Finally, the last game we played since we were last here is another big one. That is a How from our former sponsor, Grand Gamers Guild. We did talk about this once in the past. This is the game about Mayan gods, where it's kind of worker placement, where you're sending your leader to a different area of the board. You're then battling with any other leaders that try to go to the same spot and possibly kicking them out. Then you're placing workers onto cities. When you place a worker, you then can invoke the god that city worships that let you do special things like collect extra resources, move your people around, sacrifice your workers for victory points, and other fun Mayan things. There's an engine building aspect of collecting resources to be able to build buildings and to be able to build your temple. The more, when you're building your temple, you dedicate squares to it to different gods, and that makes those god abilities more powerful. So when you summon the gods again, you get to do more actions. There's lots going on in this game. I enjoyed our second play way more than our first, I think, because it was a second play, and I now kind of knew how things were going to work. It was fascinating to see different people try different strategies, and it definitely seems to be a game where you need to figure out a synergy and then just like drill down on that as hard as you can. Like find a building that does a thing and then do the thing that gets you what that building does and just keep working on it. Or find, collect a certain god and just keep hammering on summoning that god over and over to use its ability. And that is not easy. It's very obtuse in this game. And it was better in the second game, but even the second game, it was like, man, I'm doing stuff, but why am I doing stuff? And what should I be doing instead of what I'm doing because I'm not winning?
Yeah, I find you really have to adapt constantly in that game. There's a lot that's going on that isn't going to go the way you want it to. So despite what you might plan, you can go in and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this and I'm going to take this spot and I have a plan. That plan is not going to happen and you just have to keep adapting. At least that's what it felt like to me. I don't know. I somehow like this better the last time we played it. Like I didn't dislike it, but my memory of this was I was like, how I'm really looking forward to playing this. And I was like, yeah, it's okay. I struggled with it a bit visually though. The gods look really similar, and across the table I had a hard time with that part of it. So
just a note, this is actually How Rulers of Yucatan, the full name of the game. I didn't play this most recent time. I did play it in the last time. Honestly, this was one I could have done without. I think I really respect what they did with the game from a Mayan history. And, they really had everything checked by a Mayanist. It's very accurate. Unfortunately, even without these eye problems, I find the iconography horrible. The board layout is badly done. And I seem to remember there were some problems with the rule book that we had trouble understanding things the first time we were going through as well. So
we didn't have any rule questions this time at all. So I think that might have been, we resolved everything in the first play, which is something that to me made this seem better. But I have to agree, like the two of the gods look extremely similar. And yes, I get that they're making them as historically accurate as possible. Yep. But there are lots of very minor things that could have been done with this graphic design wise that would have fixed that.
Like, it's visually beautiful if you look at each component individually, but when they're side by each, they are too similar. And there's they just could have done some coloring or shapes or something to differentiate. And the god tiles, you put them out and then you pile a bunch of meeples on top of them as you do your area majority, and then you can't make them out anymore. You can kind of try to make sure you put them around the edges, but I think it would be better if they somehow made the edges look different in some way, a different color or different pattern around the outside edges to determine, so you could still tell which god was what, and it would help you determine which god was what. And I've actually thought about taking paint markers to this game. Raiders of the North Sea is the only other game that's made me want to mark it up like that. I want to go put little red horns on the Vikings. This one I want to fix all the god tiles.
War Chest, which we talked about earlier, is another one. We talked about highlighting the hexagonal tiles so they will stick out, or sorry, the edges, paint them, right? I actually wonder, because they are cardboard tokens, if just taking a highlighter to the edges might work.
Okay. All right, well, that's all for the games we've been playing. What about you? What hit your table recently? We'd love to hear about it on the Tabletop Bellhop Discord at discord.tabletopbellhop.com. Floristry is the first two-player game to feature a Dutch auction. It's a game about owning a flower shop that you can learn to play in about a minute.
This elegant domino-style tile placement game comes from David Gordon and Tam, features beautiful artwork from Marie Tan. It plays in about 15 minutes and is super accessible, language independent, and great for gamers of pretty much any age.
This is the first game from new publisher Up Games, who we have to thank for sending us a review copy. Up Games was founded by David and Tam, along with Amon Anderson and Greg May. Up recently partnered with Asmodee, so you should be able to find this game everywhere very soon.
The components in Floristry are top of the line. You get 2 thick cardboard frames, a bag, a set of wooden tiles with clear, easy-to-see flowers on them, domino style. There's also a cardboard stand to be placed between the players that shows how everything in the game scores. On this is a QR code that leads to an app that is required to play. Finally, there are 2 really cute wooden cat meeples for tracking each player's score.
Note, this app is web-driven. You don't actually have to download anything. It's not in an app store. It's web-based, but it is required to play. There's no app-free version of the game, and the app is what handles the Dutch auction. So you kind of need that countdown. Like, I guess you could get a third-person player out there to do something, but that's not included with rules on how to do that in the box.
Yeah, you need the app. It is not strictly just a timer, and you can't substitute it with the timer. In Floristry, each player is the owner of a flower shop, and the tiles you draft and place are representing your window display. The game is played out over 10 rounds, and each round is a simple Dutch auction. And that's an auction where the price starts high, and it automatically drops every few seconds. So if you wait a bit, you're going to get it for cheaper, but someone else might get it before you.
Up for grabs each round are 4 tiles. The winner of each auction will get and place 3 of them inside their frame, while the loser gets only 1 tile. You start with only 30 money, so you have to be aware of how much you are spending on these auctions, especially because the player who spends the least will earn bonus points.
So after 10 rounds of drafting and placing tiles, you add up your score. Each player gets points for the largest area, the largest all the same color of the same flower, scoring more points the more flowers in a set. You get nothing for anything less than 3 up to a maximum. I think it's 10 points for having 10 or more in a set. Then the exact same scoring method is used at the very end of the game to give points to the player who spent the least in the auctions by figuring out the difference between your two values of leftover money. The score is tracked on the frames using the cat meeples, and that's pretty much it. The player with the highest score wins.
If that sounds dead simple to you, it's because it is. Floristry is simple to learn, very quick to set up, and fast to play. To help with your first game, the app even includes a quick tutorial. And once someone has gone through that, you can teach the game in about a minute. And I'm not joking. I suck at teaching games, and I taught this the other day in about a minute and a half. And I did manage to screw up the fact that you start with the tile in the center. I told, but it didn't break the game, and then I came back and fixed it later.
The one gotcha in this game that we found during my first play of the game is that there's no back button on the app. If you accidentally skip through your auction, you kind of have messed things up, and you need to, basically lose a round of the game because there's no way to go, oops, I didn't mean to hit that. Let's go back.
Yeah. So honestly, like, that's just us being impatient, because like both players have to confirm at once, kind of like the military code thing where you're both turning the key. You both have to hold it down, let go, and then do that again. And somehow Sean and I did manage to do that in one game. So do be aware, because one of the things that I do like about this game that is when you play 10 rounds, you do play every tile. So anyone who's card counting, I haven't actually done the math ahead of time to know how many of each flower is in that bag. But if you are that kind of player, like if my dad was playing this game, he would want to know that there are exactly 32 greens in there, and missing one round would mean that messes up the math. So if you are concerned about that, just be a little careful when starting each round. This was one of those games, I don't know like how to describe it. So we were shown the game at Origins and given a quick demo, and I was just like, okay, this seems pretty neat. The Dutch auction thing's kind of cool. Then we got a copy and we played the first time, and I was just like, wow, this is just really smart. Like, this is it's simple. It's elegant. It just works. Like there's almost nothing to this game. The tiles you're drafting are basically dominoes. They have either two of the same flower or two different flowers. And if you flip them over, they're on the opposite sides. Like, that's it. You're drafting these and you're putting them together like dominoes where you're trying to group similar flowers. Like how much more simple could this be? Like, the whole key is the fact that they made a simple, quick Dutch auction game, and they have a board game with a Dutch auction that works. Like, this is one of those games where I played it once and I was just like, yep, this is smart. This is a really smart game. This is clever. This is really well done. Holy cow. How is this so much fun for being so simple?
So simple and so quick. Like, you can hammer through a game in 15 minutes, and it's satiating. It's not like, oh, I was hoping we were going to get to play for a bit more, It's slick. It's elegant. I had concerns about the Dutch auction because of the real-time elements are not my friend in games, but I still really love this one. It did take the first game. I lost every Dutch auction over and over and over again. And I was starting to get a bit frustrated with my inability to hit the timer quick enough, but I adapted.
Yeah, one of the keys I've noticed is don't watch the price, watch the clock, because it shows when the prices are going to drop. And I got to admit, there's the whole playing chicken thing with the Dutch auction, right? That's what's so fun about this game is going, okay, I'm willing to pay 3, but I want to just hit it when it turns 3. And I've paid 4 before when I planned to play 3 because I got a little too impatient. And then there's other aspects of it where you're trying to fake out your opponent, trying to show you're trying to bid on something when you don't. And there's just a lot of fun moments in this game. Like, some of the stuff I enjoy the most is, of course, just beating my opponent out by half seconds. Like it looks like we both hit it. And here's where the app comes in, right? If there was a human who was counting down or something, they're going to mess that up at some point. They're going to where's the tile? You both hit it at the same time. There's an app. It's not possible for you to both hit it at the same time. I don't know how it would figure it out, bring it down to the multi-second or whatever. I love it when I leave my opponent a tile that does absolutely nothing for them. So I win the auction and I look and I'm like, I need those. And I look over at their board and I'm like, yeah, if you get that, you're going to end up with 2 of that and at most 9 of that, and 9's worth the same points of 8. That's useless to you. That's always fun and rewarding. I also like the opposite side where my opponent leaves me one tile. Like, I lost the auction and I'm like, and then I find like the perfect spot. And I'm like, that's awesome. It fits perfectly here and gets me to 9 is the next threshold or whatever. So I'm going to get more points out of that. And I like watching my opponent waste money when I'm like, I'm not bidding on this. I don't care which of those tiles I want, but I'm like sitting there like I'm going to hit the button. And sometimes I'll like flinch, I'm like, oh, I'm going to hit it. And I'm not actually caring at all. So watching my opponent waste their money.
Oh, thanks for giving that away.
Yeah, there you go. And sometimes I'm twitching and it just means I'm twitching. And that moment where I end up like getting tons of points for spending less at the game, I tend to be pretty frugal when I've been playing this. And I got to say, like, if you can get far enough apart, but then there's the opposite where you're like, oh, you know what? My opponent's just like spending money. I can afford to bid 5 on this. I can afford to bid 5. I'm just going to win by drafting all the dang tiles and leave you with no choices, which seems like a valid strategy. My favorite, though, is that moment where I teach this game to someone new and they're like, that's it. That's the whole game. Wow. Yeah. Let's play it. Let's go. And then they play it and they're like, wow, can we play again? Like, that's just really smart. I've heard a couple people say that. It seems that is a smart game. I've heard a few different people say that.
It's brilliant. It's really well thought out. And the thing where the money is only in the app. You start with 30, but you don't actually have it. And when we played the first time, it actually tripped us up for a second because we're like, well, what are we spending? Are we spending our points? Are we going negative? No. And the fact that it's just tracked in the app, the money that you're spending, and then that the bonus at the end for having spent less isn't just based on what you spent, but on the point spread between the two of you is also really clever.
In addition to enjoying this game with Deanna and the kids, it's also proving to be a pretty big hit at our public play events. It's been popular with gamers of all ages. I got to say, I played a very engaging game with one of the local heavy gamers at the Cookie Bar. And so far, everyone I've shown this to has enjoyed it.
I've had the same reaction. I've taught it to some people. They picked it up really quick and they dug it. Another aspect of... sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
Another aspect of Floristry that I personally like is how little table space it takes up. We can play this just about anywhere. We talk about this often. Mo and I enjoy bringing games out to pubs and cafes, and this game is perfect for that. It'll easily fit up at a bar or on the smallest of round coffee shop tables.
Yeah, it's wonderful because it's a light filler. I mean, it's 15, 20 minutes. It's not heavyweight. You've got an app and a couple of screens and a bag that really doesn't take up much space, doesn't take up much mental power. The only real gotcha is the fact that you are stuck using an app. And this can be a deal breaker for some people.
Yeah.
The fact that there is this external thing you need. And unfortunately, they can leave people with the worry of what happens when that thing goes away, because this game is unplayable without that website. Thankfully, it's not an app, so that's a little easier to manage as a website than an app. But someone is still paying to manage and upkeep a website. And I have seen people complain about problems in it. So I don't know if early on when it was first released, there were some bugs and they've had to upgrade and fix things. But I haven't seen any problems during our plays. But just be aware that, this is something that people are maintaining and managing and have to maintain and manage.
I think the fact the game got signed with Asmodee is probably a good indication you don't have to worry about that app going anywhere anytime soon. Like that's the biggest name in board gaming is now behind this game. So I think you're probably safe, but yes, be aware it does require an app. It also requires you to have an electronic device on you when you want to play. So
and internet.
No, internet is not required once you have it. Like if you save it to your home screen, it'll just work.
Oh, because it was web-based, I just assumed you had to have live access. Interesting. Okay.
One thing I will say, just because even though it is Asmodee, it isn't on Board Game Arena because of that real-time aspect. Board Game Arena is not well suited to that sort of real-time thing. So I doubt it would ever probably get onto Board Game Arena, despite the fact that it would be handy to have the auction there.
Well, the whole thing, you'd only be able to play real-time games. And I think they don't put anything on there that can't be played turn-based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this game. Like, I'm smitten with this. It's a game that delivers perfectly on its premise and promise. It offers a small footprint, which is an added bonus. It's a game I've never played one game and then walked away. I always play multiple games in a row. It's also a game that I can play 3 times in a row and still be willing to go again, which I can't say that for a lot of different games. It's just very elegant, simple to learn game, great components that feel good in your hand. It's a win all around. Honestly, I think this is worth picking up for anyone who enjoys abstract 2-player games, and a must buy, I would say, if you like auction games. Like if you like the thrill of a Dutch auction where the price is dropping and you have to act before your opponent does. That's what this game is. You do that 10 times. And then there's also this thing where you're trying to put your puzzle pieces together to score the most points. But like that auction is just so thrilling.
I love this game. I think it's brilliant. I want to point out that if, like me, you hate timed elements in games, you should seek this out and give it a shot because you may still love it as much as I do.
And if, like me, you generally don't like auctions in games at all, still give it a try. I didn't mind it that much. I found this was much better than a sort of freeform auction in many games. The app helped sort of moderate that and make it better. But now it's time to go water the plants. Thank you for joining us for our review of Floristry, the first game from Up Games, a company we'll be watching in the future.
If you did enjoy this review, please consider tipping your bellhop. You can do that at patreon.com/tabletopbellhop, or you can buy us a coffee going to tabletopbellhop.com/coffee. But one thing, be sure to watch for the cats when heading out the door.
Battle line style or area control meets trick-taking in the 2-player only card game Lone Wolves.
Lone Wolves is an update and translation of the Japanese card game Four Clans Conflict, which was designed by Yasuki Nakamura. This update and translation was done by Anthony Perrone and features artwork from Zinko Kang and Yuan Momoko. Now, this localization is being published by Wonderful World Board Games, sometimes better known as WWBG. Now, our copy was given to us as a promo by the publisher at Gamma Expo.
I have to admit, I'm a bit curious about the original Japanese edition. I keep meaning to go look it up online just so I can see what the art looked like. Lone Wolves comes with a board divided into 5 color-coded sections and a deck of cards with 5 suits matching these colors. There are 6 cards in each suit, numbered 2 to 7. You also get a number of 2-sided scoring tokens that end up being awarded for area control, and a set of scar tokens that are earned when you lose tricks, and 2 moon tokens that are used to denote the trump suits during play.
The component quality here is good, with each suit featuring its own artwork for its wolf pack. There's a lot of iconography, but there's a good reference for it, and you'll end up picking it up pretty quickly as you play. Just be careful if your board is a bit warped and you choose to bend it backwards to fix it. Our copy now features a 2-part board, but that doesn't affect gameplay at all.
So speaking of gameplay, Lone Wolves is a trick-taking game that follows all the usual trick-taking rules. The active player is going to play a lead card. The other players have to follow suit if they can. The other player, has to follow suit if they can, and if they can't, they can play off suit. The trick is taken by the highest played card of the led suit. Partway through the game, a suit will become trump, and any trick where trump is played, it's the highest played trump that wins the trick. A full game only takes about 15 minutes, and if you're anything like Deanna and I, you're probably going to want to play a couple rounds in a row during a single game session.
You pick which side of the board to use. On one side, all the areas are equal, and on the other side, the game is more asymmetric, with different numbers of tokens being placed onto each spot. You place a random scoring tile on each area, along with a set number of scar tokens, 3 on the standard side of the board, and as I said, mixes it up on the asymmetric side, and then you flip 1 scar token in each area face up.
Shuffle all the cards and deal each player 13 cards, removing the last 4 from the game. This means there's no perfect information here. Card counting is not foolproof.
Now, each turn, the lead player will play 1 card on their side of the board to one of the 5 colored areas. Their opponent will then play a card on their side of the board to any area. Note, it doesn't have to be where the first player played. Then you resolve the trick. The winner of the trick leaves their card where they placed it face up, where its value will add to their ability to win the area majority thing going on for that area. The loser, though, has to flip their card over to the Lone Wolf side, where its value is reduced to 1, no matter what its original value is. In addition, the loser gets to take a scar token, if there are any left, in the area where they played their card. This token is then placed on their side of the board into any area. It doesn't have to be the one where you took the token from.
The scar tokens have a huge effect on the game. The abilities on them include all kinds of things, like scoring points for you at the end of the game for wolves that you have at the area that it's placed. They can modify the value of cards in the area that they're placed. They can let you flip over a scoring token, which adjusts the amount of points that an area is worth, and other things.
Another important thing about scars is that they set trump. The first time that the last scar is taken from an area, the full moon token is placed on that spot. From that point on, that suit becomes the trump suit. In addition, the full moon is worth bonus points for the person that controls that area at the end of the game. Similarly, the second place to be voided of scars gets the blood moon token. This resets the trump to that new color, and its token is also worth points, though less than a full moon.
Now, other rules you have to watch while playing is that each area can only hold a set number of scars. Each area can only hold 6 cards total. Now, that counts wolves on both sides, yours and your opponent's side, 6 cards between both of you. And the fact that 2 of the cards have special abilities. The 2s beat the 7s, so there's kind of a cycle there where every card can beat another card. They beat 7s of the same suit. And when you play a 3 card to any area, you get to flip over one of the scar tokens on the spot you played the 3 at, so you can kind of see what it is ahead of time to know if you want that or not.
Play continues for 3 hands, with players playing every card in their hand. At the end of the 13th trick, you figure out who has won each area. You compare the strength of the cards on each side of the board, including any modifiers from scar cards, and award the point token and any moon tokens to the player with the highest total. If players are tied, no one gets the token. Then players get any points for scars placed on their side of the board, and the player with the most points wins.
What may not be...
Quick correction, sorry, that should have been 13 hands. You're going to play all cards. You're going to play every card in your hand until you are out of cards. Sorry about that.
You're not allowed to go in and change my words while I'm saying them. It really trips me up.
But they were wrong.
Well,
What may not be totally clear from the overview is the different number of ways you can get points and win the game, and the amount the game is modified by the scar tokens. It's not just about having the highest totals on your side of the board, and you can win the game without winning a single trick.
And that's what I like most about Lone Wolves. It's not just a trick-taking game where the player who wins the most tricks wins. It's much thinkier than that, and figuring out the best play can be hard. It can also be very tactical, as you're going to have to react to both what your opponent is doing and what scars come up when. While some strategy is required, there's a lot of variables you need to adjust for and change your play for in Lone Wolves.
Losing all the tricks can make you win because you collect a lot of cool scars, but that's not always going to make you win. You can sometimes want to throw tricks intentionally so you can get a cool scar, but other times it's definitely better if you win and get a higher point value in a place. Like, the game just has a lot going on.
While there are a lot of moving parts in Lone Wolves, and I have quite a few rules for trick-taking games, for a trick-taking game, I did find the game pretty quick to play, and pick up and to grasp. There is a bit of a learning curve. The big thing being learning what the different scar tokens are. And honestly, that first game, you're going to be surprised by how much they actually impact the gameplay and players' final score. But I found everyone I've taught the game so far picks it up by the end of that first game. By the time you're doing the points at the end of the game, people pretty much got it. And I've got to say, almost everyone at that point then says, now that I get it, can I play again? That does seem to be one of the things with this game. And after that first game, you've pretty much got it down. Now, that does not mean the game is solved in any way, and there are still lots of variations to strategy after that. But getting the core mechanics down, I would say, takes probably one play.
Yeah, you need that one play to understand that those scar tokens can affect your endgame scoring. They can affect how your wolves are going to tally up for the area majority. They can flip, they do a number of different things, each one that affects different parts of the game. And every time when you're playing that first game, you're like, oh, I get it. The scar tokens all do this. And then you're like, oh, no, wait, they also do that. Oh, and they also do that. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, this one's interesting because there is a lot going on, and the hidden scar tokens and the 4 cards that are pulled out of the game means it's a little more random than I think some people are going to enjoy. You know, if you are the card counter perfect information lover, you are probably going to have some issues with this game. That being said, it is certainly interesting, and again, it's a 15-minute game. Like, it plays really quick. And so play a few hands. If you like it, great. If not, you don't have to go back to it. You know, you haven't lost a lot of time.
Fair enough. Things I find fun when playing this game includes keeping track of what is played, like doing some of the card counting and knowing I can win the next 3 tricks in a row, or purposely losing tricks just to get scar counters, or winning an area with lone wolves due to playing clever and combination of tokens. Or one of my most favorite things is when your opponent is certain they've got an area and they're about to score 12 points, and the last scar token of the game, I give it to them and flip it to a 6, and they lose half the points. For some reason, that one's very satisfying. Setting trump and then winning the next few tricks because I set trump effectively. Or I also enjoy it when I think I have a guaranteed win and then lose it due to clever play by my opponents. I'm like, I got this. And they're like, oh, no, you don't. I did this thing. And I'm like, oh, damn, well done. Good play. That's impressive. There were a lot of fun moments in this game for me.
The moment for me that is the most frustrating is when we tie and no one gets the points. And I'm like, I thought for sure I had this area. Not only did I not win, it was just no one gets it. And I'm like, oh, I hate it. But I also kind of love it. And then my favorite part is when Mo thinks he's going to win the next 3 tricks in a row, but he's not.
Yeah, and one of the things I do like is this is a game where some strategy can be rewarded. Like there's enough information out there. If you know the 2's gone, your 7's probably good. That is until your opponent then somehow sets trump and changes and ends up taking the trick, even though all you have left are 7's in your hand, but they're now all the wrong color.
Yeah, and the replayability of this game is great too. Again, because of that random factor, because you aren't getting perfect information, because you can't solve it, essentially, you get really ups the replayability level.
Yeah, for whatever reason, this game just clicked with me. Like I enjoyed it since my first play. I feel like this is a game I want to show people. Like, hey, come check out this 2-player trick taker. Do you like Battle Line? Do you like Lost Cities? I want to show you this. Or, oh, you like trick taking games? Have you tried this one? Do you like Fox in the Forest, another 2-player trick taking game? You got to try this. There's something about this game, like it does. It reminds me, gives me memories of Lost Cities and Battle Line, but it's also doing some really clever things with the trick taking. Of all the 2-player trick takers I played, this is my favorite so far. And that's for 2-player area majority games. It's not the top. There are some of those others I like a little more, and some of the other tug of war games I like. But I do really dig this one. Like, it's up there. And then the combination of both together makes this something special.
For me, it's just okay. I'm going to be willing to play it, but I'm not in love with it. And I can't really put my finger on what it is about it that I'm just meh. Yeah.
I wouldn't really be jumping on Shot and Totten or Cities or any of these type of games. They're fun. I'll play it if you know you got some time to kill. And again, 15 minutes. Even if you don't love it, it's still a nice way to fill in a little bit of time between other games, or if you're just looking to kill time. So nothing against it, but it's not something I'm going to grab for.
Fair enough. And I gotta say, since we all do seem split on this one, I won't say, hey, everyone who loves trick takers, go pick up Lone Wolves. Or if you like tug of war style area majority games, go grab this game. But I will say both those groups should give this game a shot. I love it. There's something about this game that just works really well for me. The trick taking here is quite pure, except for the fact there's only 2 cards per trick. And the area majority I like. And I think what I do like about it is the fact it's not that perfect information. And there are lots of ways to mess with things in order to snatch a win from what looks like it's going to be a loss.
The full moon has come and gone. The blood moon just faded, and it's time to call it wraps on this review of Lone Wolves. This game isn't alone, though, as there's a number of 2-player only trick-taking games out there, and we want to know which is the best you've played.
Tell us all about it wherever you found this review. Or better yet, jump on the Tabletop Bellhop Discord over at discord.tabletopbellhop.com and start up a conversation there.
Two architects compete to build the most beautiful Babylonian city through worker placement, tile drafting, and tic-tac-toe mechanics. Yes, you heard that right. Tic-tac-toe in Architects of Amytis.
So Amytis was originally released in France as Les Architectes d'Amytis by publisher La Boîte de Jeux. Was designed by Jeremy Doucet, Romeric Gallonneau, and features a very distinct artwork from Agnes Ripoche. Our copy comes thanks to Hachette Games, who let us take a copy home from Gamma Expo, and this is who is distributing the game in North America.
Architects of Amytis is a 2-player only city building game that involves tile drafting from a 3x3 board and tile placement onto a 3x3 tableau. Like the Babylonian cities it's based on, you have the ability to build on top what has already been built, and you'll be doing this to fulfill order cards, score points based on what you've already built, and unlock endgame scoring opportunities by managing to place 3 workers in a row for that tic-tac-toe element. All of this takes about 30 minutes tops, though your first few plays will probably take a wee bit longer.
Amytis comes in a small box with great-looking components. Nice, thick building tiles, thick player boards, wooden workers and scoring tokens, and small square cards. The iconography here is excellent, and the inclusion of 2 sets of reference cards for each building is appreciated. The game also doesn't take up much space, something we look for in 2-player games.
So setup Architects of Amytis is super quick. All you have to do is fill the main board with 9 stacks of 5 tiles each in a face-up pile so you can see the building on top. A 3-card market of project cards is placed in the center of the board. Then the starting player draws 2 random project cards and the other player gets 3. Finally, you decide which of the 2 sets of scoring cards you will use for the game, recommending the A side for your first few games.
Yeah, there is no 3rd player in this 2-player only game.
Yes.
Each turn starts with players retrieving their workers from the board if they had 3 in a row placed on the previous turn, or if all 4 of the workers are already out. Then players take 1 tile from the top of any empty stack and place their worker on top of that stack. Then they place the tile they drafted onto one of the 9 spots on their player board and score points based on the type of tile that they placed.
Each building in Amytis scores differently, and there are 2 different sets of scoring cards you can use. In general, though, you get points for things you just placed and have already placed in your tableau. It's only the top most visible tile that counts. All of these scoring opportunities are listed on reference cards and are pretty easy to learn during your first play. Some examples include city walls are worth 2 points if placed on an edge square, plus 2 points for every other wall you have in play on an edge. Templates that give you only 1 point but let you draft another project card. Markets that give you points for owning a variety of different tile types, and more.
Now, in addition to each tile featuring a building that scores differently, they each also are color-coded, which is also represented by a shape. Yay for accessibility. There are 4 colors in the game total, or 4 symbols. When placing a tile, if you manage to match the pattern shown on one of your progress cards, you get to flip it over and score them at the end of the game. Now, each progress card shows a pattern of 3 to 5 colors and shapes and is worth variable amount of points, with the easier to fill ones being worth less than the ones that are more complicated.
Finally, there's that tic-tac-toe thing. If, when placing your worker, you manage to get 3 workers in a row of your color in a line or diagonal, you get to unlock an endgame scoring opportunity. These include things like getting a set amount of points, scoring your stacks of tiles based on their heights, scoring tall stacks just placed in the corners, etc.
Play continues until 2 of the tile stacks on the main board are empty. While most points are awarded as tiles are played mid-game, the unlocked bonus points for forming a line are awarded at the end. The player with the most points wins.
So I have to admit, I was actually skeptical about this game when I first learned about it. I'm like, come on, is a new Euro game for 2 players that uses tic-tac-toe? Like, how could that be so good? I'm like, so it's a variant of tic-tac-toe, and they're like, no, it's straight up tic-tac-toe. There's nothing new there. That's just part of the game. And Deanna is actually the one that pushed me to check this game out. And well, she was right. I owe it to her. This game is rather brilliant.
I saw it out on the table at Gamma Expo, and while I didn't play it, I had someone walk me through an overview, and I was like, yeah, no, I like the looks of this. I want to give it a shot. There's so much I love here. Like, the component quality is great. It's just tiny and fits compactly on a table, which is something I really love for two-player games. I love that it's specifically a two-player game. I love how easy it is to get to the table, how quick it is to set up. And just, there's a lot I like here.
The tic-tac-toe portion is interesting because I suspect that when this game was being developed, it was an emergent factor in the game rather than a key gameplay factor, because it's one of those things where if it happens, that's great, and you probably want to try for it, but it's not necessary. You can win without those end game scoring points. And so there could be times where you're more than willing to, you know, while you might go Cats game after Cats game after Cats game, then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's way better for me to get this tile here. Go ahead, take your 3 in a row.
Yep.
Yes.
And honestly, I like, to me, the tic-tac-toe part, though, and I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you if it not being the core component, or if someone sat down and said, I want to make a good game that uses tic-tac-toe. I'm not sure what went into the design and development of this game. But to me, the tic-tac-toe part is one of the most brilliant parts of the game. And that's kind of what makes it stand out. Because honestly, I find the tic-tac-toe part is where some of the hardest decisions come in. Right? Do I take a tile I may not want just to get a tic-tac-toe? Or do I take one that's only going to give me 1 or 2 points? Or do I like ruin a project card that I've been working on for 3 turns just because my opponent left me that opportunity? Like, is it worth just getting those points at the end? And I actually really like that decision tree. I like that the thinking there and the choices that are presented by, do I go for the 3 in a row?
Yeah, because there's an obvious move that'll stop you from getting tic-tac-toe, but is that the optimal move for me right now? Maybe. Quite often not.
And it's not just that, though, too, right? Like, the actual tile drafting city building part of the game is quite clever. And there are other hard decisions to be found, right? Like, do I draft a tile because it's worth a lot of points in the moment? Because, like, all my things are different right now. So if I grab a market, I'm just going to get a bunch of points, but that market's the wrong color. Or do I grab something just to fulfill a high value 12-point project card? Like, yeah, okay, it's only going to get me 2 points, but I'm going to get to flip this card. And what I've liked the most is, over all the plays I've had of this game where I've either taught the game and watched or been part of the game myself, so far, no single strategy or style of play seems to be better than another. Like, I've seen players win by just like completing a fat stack of project cards. And I've seen another player win with only ever completing one of their 2 starting ones. And the same thing goes for that whole tic-tac-toe bonus points. You don't need to unlock those end game scoring points if you're really smart with your tile drafting. Meanwhile, I've seen players score a ton of end game points. Meanwhile, what they drafted didn't matter so much because they have so many different end game rewards.
Yeah, it's a choose your own adventure. I love that aspect. And if that's not enough for you, you flip it over and do the B side so that you have completely different patterns that you're aiming for.
Yeah, I think the initial description of this game, and even looking at it sitting out on a table, really kind of hides the depth involved in the game, because every turn you have essentially a 4 or more way decision that you have to work through. There is no obvious decision ever in this game.
Yeah, this is definitely not one of those games where it feels like it's playing itself. Like, okay, obviously I need to take that next. You definitely don't have that. Though I got to say, like, it almost sounds like, especially with Sean's recent, what he just described, makes it sound almost more complicated than it is, though. Because honestly, like, this game is actually very approachable for the amount of depth and decision points it has. The teach in this game is quite simple, and the basic mechanics are easy to pick up. While it may take a bit for the players to remember how each building scores and what they do, those reference cards help for that and keeping the memory going.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I'm worried that we're making this sound a little more complex than it is. It's actually on the lighter side of things, but it's like a nice satiating game. Like, it's not too light. It just sits in a nice spot.
Yeah, it's sitting in at about a weight of 2. So you've got decisions, like, you absolutely have decisions, but they aren't mind bending, tearing your hair out decisions. It's just, you have decisions to make every single turn.
And from that 2-player aspect, it's a game that you can have a conversation, chat, hang out, enjoy hanging out with the other person. It's casual enough at that level. So that's something I like about it too.
Now, some of the moments I enjoy while playing Architects of Amytis include taking an endgame scoring opportunity and then focusing on that and figuring out the puzzle to maximize the points for that one thing. My favorite one that I like to do is there's one that's called like the stepped scoring opportunity, I like to call it, where you have to have tiles going 1 level, then 2 level, then 3. And if you maximize that, you can get 24 points. And that tends to become a personal goal of mine whenever I play this game, is trying to get that particular reward. I also love doing the tic-tac-toe thing where you do the perfect play in tic-tac-toe where I can get a diagonal or a straight. There's nothing you can do to stop me. That always feels good, especially if both the tiles I can take are useful to me, so it doesn't matter where you block me. Letting my home opponent have a line, knowing full well I am about to make way more points than them by drafting the tile I need than they're going to get from any of the end game scoring opportunities. The project cards, right? Fulfilling the project cards is that little bit of order fulfillment here. I love filling more than one on a single turn. That always feels good to me. And I love having a fat stack at the end of the game, especially when that's what wins me the game, where it looks like someone's way ahead of me because they've gotten a lot of in-game points. Then I'm like 12, 12, 8, 8, 8, 6, boom. That always feels great to me. Then, of course, the surprise moment where I'm so focused on completing those project cards that my opponent tic-tac-toes me 2 turns in a row because I was focused on other things. I totally missed that. Great play. I love it.
There's some really satisfying moments in this game that can just, like, even if you don't win, I completed this one goal that I set for myself that I wanted to make this one scoring opportunity. And even, win or not, I feel like, oh, I did the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is a game that has an aspect of it where touch matters. And I'm saying this specifically because this game is on Board Game Arena. And I am noticing a trend where the Board Game Arena players are not loving it. There is something physical about this game. So if you get a chance, if you want to evaluate this game, try and find someone who's got it. Find a store who set it up and let you play it and see the game and touch the game. And if you like the game, great, go over and you can have your extra plays over on Board Game Arena. We love Board Game Arena, but it is, I'm feeling, not the best way to experience this game and learn this game, as is often the case on Board Game Arena. So check it out in physical form.
Be a matter of how they lay out the information on Board Game Arena, because there's a lot that you're looking at when you're making your choices between what you have going on and what your opponents have going on. And if that's not all, like, just readily, I haven't checked it out on Board Game Arena, but that's my thought, is maybe that's been my complaint for games that I dislike on there, is that you have to, the information's there, but you got to hunt around for it, as opposed to just, I'm going to look over there, I'm going to look over there. It's natural, it flows, and, it doesn't hold up your turn.
I don't know. There's also a very physical aspect of this game because you're building on top of layers, right? You're doing stacks of 2, 3, 4 that physically becomes a 3D object in front of you. Your city grows as you build it. And I think losing that aspect is also part of it. And it's honestly way more satisfying playing tic-tac-toe to put down that third piece and be like, boom, there's a row, than it would be just to click a box to me. So for me, Architects of Amytis is the perfect example of a game that far exceeded my expectations pretty much in every way. The gameplay is far more clever and engaging than I expected. I love how it takes, like, honestly, a truly classic mechanic. I think most people feel we should have moved away from, and makes it fresh and relevant again. I like games that have a puzzle feel, and that end game scoring definitely gives you a puzzle feel. And I like games where you're trying to eke out just 1 or 2 more points by every play. I also love the fact it doesn't take up a lot of room, so it's perfect for that restaurant, cafe, coffee shop, or craft beer game night. And I like how every game I played feels unique and different. And then there's the ability I can flip the scoring cards to change things up if I ever do find myself getting bored, which hasn't happened yet.
I really enjoyed this game. I think it is a solid 2-player game. It is a great date night game. It gives a bit of a puzzle feel while making tic-tac-toe feel fresh. If you're looking for something like that, you should check out Architects of Amytis. It does a great job of combining the elements of city building, order fulfillment, worker placement, and variable scoring. It's a game where you feel like you have a lot of player agency, which I always dig, and it can become a fun test of skill between two players.
We've talked a lot about two-player games tonight, and we're always on the lookout for something new, something we've missed. What are your favorite two-player games? Let us know in the comments.
And after that, consider taking a trip over to the Tabletop Bellhop merch store and picking up some swag. We've got board game-inspired t-shirts featuring artwork from our daughter Gwen, Bellhop mugs and hoodies, and more. Just head over to tabletopbellhop.com/merch.
Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end, and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors. Time to get out.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank a selection of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons. Sean P. Kelly, thanks, Sean.
Derek Hisson, thank you, Derek.
Big thanks to the members of the Misdirected Mark podcast.
Donna, thanks, Pax.
Evil John, thank you, John.
Thank you, Brian Kurtz.
Now, your first stop to finding us should be at tabletopbellhop.com, but you can find us all over the web as Tabletop Bellhop, one word, and on your podcatcher of choice as the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast.
Now, we love answering your gaming game night questions through email and here on the podcast. Send your questions to questions@tabletopbellhop.com. Click on Ask the Bellhop on the webpage, or just hit us up on social media.
So I know I said this at the top of the show, but we do publish the most ridiculously detailed show notes with tons of links to everything we mentioned. So if you're curious about something that we talked about tonight, or you didn't quite catch the publisher or the name of a game that we mentioned, check out the show notes over on our website, and you can find the notes for this episode at tabletopbellhop.com/episode 276.
Well, that's all for us tonight.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you. And
game on.